Being successful with women is one of those things where once you get it, you will look back in total disbelief at how that you found it difficult. You will say, I attended a 4-day seminar on this? On just walk up, be cool, and chat? And move venues and go home? I had to study that? Yeah, that fucking Tyler kept me in there for 4 days. All right? Core confidence this, strong reality that. Why didn't he just tell me to chill and just go chill and chat and shoot the shit? You know, make a quick connection and say, let's get out of here and go home. Why didn't he tell me that? Why didn't he tell me to just be cool, right? That is the operative term. Once you're good at this, it's like, dude, like, ugh. Like, you know, some guy, like, when you're good at this, some guy will be telling you about all his problems. You're like, oh, dude, just be cool. Like, blah. Just chill, you know, right? Okay, calm. All right, now talk to her. God, right? That's why naturals have a hard time with this. They hear about this stuff. They're like, what? What? Huh? You know, they don't get it. So look, at some point, you'll hit a point where you will not believe that it was this complicated. But for most guys, there's a glass wall that's lying in front of them. A glass wall lying directly in front of you that's separating you from the kind of success that you want. This goes for any type of success, doesn't it? Whether it's financial success, health success, success in relationships, lifestyle, all that stuff. There's like this glass wall between the haves and the have-nots. You know, when you guys look at someone who is a financial person who has it, it's like a glass wall between you and them, if you're a have-not. So, this is what we want to look at. We will call it your bearings. All right? And the concept that I want to introduce to you guys is called the bearings that makes your world make sense. The bearings that make your world make sense, we call it your map. We call it your reality. All right? So let's look again at what is reality. Your view of who you are, your view of what people are like and how they should respond to you, and your view of how the world works and what is possible. All right? It might be a reality that's empowering, and it might be a reality that is disempowering, isn't it? Do you guys all know people who live in a disempowering reality? Yeah. Do you guys know anyone who lives in a phenomenally empowering reality? Yeah. Great. Regardless of that, it gives you a sense of bearings because it makes your world make sense. So look, that's what it comes down to. Like, what are people getting out of this? When someone lives in a disempowering reality, they're getting something out of it. Nobody's living in a reality they're not getting anything out of. So surely they're getting something out of that reality. All right? What is it? Number one, it makes your world make sense. It gives you a sense of bearings. I have a question for you guys. Who here in this room would like to be able to walk through walls? Say I. I. Who here in this room would like to be able to float up and fly into the sky and fly wherever you want in this world? Say I. I. All right, guess what? I don't fucking believe you. I don't believe it. Some of you do, a couple of you do, but 99% of you don't. Why would I say that? Okay? Sounds cool, right? I know what you're thinking, man. You're going to go in the girls' change room, you're going to take her, right? You're thinking everything, okay? All right? And that's all good. Now, look, think of it this way. So, you want to be able to walk through walls, you want to be able to fly. All right. Great. Look, let me ask you a question. Does Britney Spears look very happy right now? No. Okay. All right. But what if I'd said, hey, who in here wants to have like millions of dollars? Everyone's like, me, right? Who here wants to have everyone loving them and doing whatever they want? Everyone, me, right? Who do you think is probably happier? Most people in this room or Britney right now?
Most people in this room.
Right? Okay. So if you think about it, why is that? What is going on there? Why did Britney shave her head? Okay? Why did she literally why is she in like such a state? She's like, God, my life, and just shaves her head, right? Not even knowing probably what's going on. All right? A lot of people look down on Britney. I have a tremendous amount of sympathy for Britney. I see what's going on with her, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, you know what? That is a lot of pressure for anybody, what she's under. Because it is called the fear of your own success, fear of your own greatness. You don't think that you have it? I beg to differ. Everybody has it. Every person in this room, and especially myself included, has more fear probably of their own greatness than of failure. Why? So let's go back to the walking through walls or being able to fly. So tomorrow you wake up because, hey, everyone in this room that said I, well, there was like this magic pixie dust that we put into your water supply. And everyone that said I at that moment is going to wake up, and tomorrow they're going to be able to walk through walls, and they're going to be able to fly. And it's going to be the coolest thing in the world. Okay? Thanks, dude. Okay? Thank you. So look, okay, thank you. Okay? All right. Okay? So now look. All right. So basically,
They had to have like 100% belief.
no, nothing like that.
It's like Peter Pan.
Yeah, but if you don't have 100% belief, the dust doesn't work. That's why it didn't work, okay? Yeah, look, the thing is, so you wake up tomorrow, all right? You wake up tomorrow morning. Even you're going to wake up tomorrow morning, all right? Okay? All right? You want to go to sleep now so you can get there faster? All right? Okay? So you're going to wake up tomorrow morning, and you're going to be able to fly. So first, look, first thing that happens is you wake up, and you're like, you start to float up, or say like, you walk up to your door, and you put your hand to touch the door, and suddenly your hand goes through the door. What the fuck, right? Your heart's like, right? You start to get scared. What's going on here, right? So you like walk through the door, okay? And then your mom goes, ah! Right? And your mom starts screaming and saying, you're not my son! Okay? Starts freaking out. All right? Then you're like, Mom, I'm sick of you always giving me shit all the time. All right? I can do what I want, including studying pickup if I want. She's like, no! Okay? And then suddenly, as you're yelling, you start to float, right? You notice, you're like, I'm floating. Okay, and you start to float up in the air, right? And you look down, and you're like, where's the ground? Where's the ground? You're floating up in the air. Well, guess what? Your neighbor saw it. You know your annoying neighbor that busts you whenever you try to have a party? Well, that neighbor just called, and they called the cops. And guess who else is coming? The press is coming. So now you've got the press there, and you've got the cops there, and they're looking at you, and they're saying, there's that guy who can do some stuff that we can't do. All right? And we're all going to judge him. Some of us are going to love him, and some of us are going to hate him. And your friends are weirded out. Your friends don't want to talk to you anymore because they're weirded out. They don't relate to you anymore. Your friends no longer relate to you. You don't know what your bearings are. You try to walk, 1 minute you can open the door, the next minute you fall through the door. You're falling on the ground. You're floating up. You're trying to write your notes, and you're floating up in the air, and you don't know what's going on anymore. Everyone thinks you're a freak. All right? Or amazing. Who knows? But it's more strong opinions than you're ready to deal with. And that's what's happening. And it's not too pleasant. You go, dude, I just want to be normal again. I just want to be what I was. I don't need this. I don't need this to be happy. Just let me be what I was. All right? And that's what we could use as a very interesting explanation of what is called a success barrier. You guys have ever heard of success barriers?
Yes.
All right, well, success barrier is when your mind, you think that you want success, but your mind has blocks that it has put up to stop you from getting it. And it is absolutely real. And in fact, let me tell you, in getting any kind of success, be it financial, health, success in relationships, whatever it is, the further that you push beyond what your previous concept of where you should be at is, the more anxiety you're normally going to feel. There's a certain anxiety that takes place. Now let me ask you this. Have you guys ever had an experience where you learned something entirely new and that defied your reality and made you feel nauseous or confused? Are you pointing at this seminar? Okay, did anyone else feel like that during this seminar? Did anyone have trouble sleeping during this seminar? All right, okay. And how about from people who have taken boot camps? Has anyone here taken a boot camp and they just could not fall asleep the night of the boot camp? Yeah. All right, so seeing a lot of people like, whoa, other people had that too? What? Right? The reason why that is because when you're getting your idea of reality is getting tampered with, you'll get this weird kind of feeling in you. Maybe it's like a little bit of anxiety. Maybe your mind keeps replaying all these other things, like all the different ramifications of it, and your world is getting messed with. Now look, every person in this room is a self-development junkie probably. I'm the world's greatest self-development junkie. I love it. I'm a hobbyist. I love it to death. So we're willing to push through that. But most people are not. That's why most of your friends who you talk about self-development with, it's like talking to a wall. It just goes in one ear, out the other. The blockers are up, all right? I'm not trying to create a cult-type atmosphere type here or anything like that. Like, don't talk to your friends. I'm actually saying be understanding of your friends is what I'm really trying to say, all right? Be understanding. Don't judge it. So look, let's talk success barriers. Success barriers, God. So much fear of having your reality thrown into disarray. Most people just don't want to deal with it. So let's think about success with women. Guys will talk all day about how much they want success with women, won't they? They will talk about it. And this is where you become alienated from your friends when you get into this. Because say for the last 10 years you've got a group of buddies, and whenever you'd see some cute girl, you'd be like, oh man, I would love to like hook up with that girl. I want that girl. She's so hot, right? Most guys will never say they want to like date her. They want to sound tough. So like, I want to fuck that girl, right? That's how guys talk. You know, even if they actually would like to be in a relationship, that's how they'll talk. So the thing is like, you know, you talk your whole life about getting all these girls, and you and your buddies bond. That's how you bond. Did any of you guys ever used to go out with your, like, you know, chode buddies as a chode yourself, and you'd go out to nightclubs on the weekend and kind of just, like, sit around like that staring? And you'd go in the nightclubs and you'd say, this club's no good. We should just go to the next club. As if, right? As if it was good, you would have, after all these years, busted out the pistols and just started taking it down and owning it, right? Okay? As if, right? So, the thing is like, you know, you're going to clubs, you're sitting in line, you're paying these expensive cover prices, buying overpriced alcohol, and talking about chicks with your friends all these years. So all these years you're doing it, and suddenly you find out about real social dynamics. And you say, look at this. All that talk we've been having, we could do it, guys. Look at this material. Look at these ideas. This stuff makes sense. I tried some of this stuff. It's working. Let's go and do it. And your friends are like, oh, dude, what are you reading that for, man? You're like, yo, let's get real here, guys. We're not like all big pimps. Come on, let's do this. Yeah, dude, trust me. Look, anytime I wanted a girl, I could get the girl, okay? Right? You remember Nancy? Come on, dude. You remember Nancy? I saw her, I wanted her, and I got her. All right? You remember Jen, like 6 more years before that? I saw her, I wanted her, I got her. I'm batting 1,000, right? You tell your friends that you had a flake, like a flaky number. They're like, you got stood up? I never get stood up. Of course you never get stood up. The only girl whose number you ever asked for chose you through your social circle, threw herself at you, and like a dumbass who didn't see it for like 2 months, then eventually like, maybe Linda likes me. I'm going to ask her out, right? Linda's been throwing herself at you for months. And then finally, you're like, hey, want to go out? You're like, still batting 1,000, baby. Batting 1,000. Okay? That is the majority of guys. Most guys are like, they hear like, you know, if they heard that like, for example, that I got a flake and I run a dating program, they'd be like, that guy runs a dating program and he got a flake? Ha, I never get flakes. Oh man, I totally don't need that. Yeah, me and Jen, back in the day. All right? Okay? So that... You know, so that's the mindset, right? Is like guys will talk all day about how great it would be to have success with women, but when we say, hey, let's cut the shit, let's make a point A to point B plan about how to do this, most guys are not going to do it. Now look, here's a key thing, and this is very counterintuitive, but as far as your mind is concerned, you guys remember how I said you are not your mind? As far as your mind is concerned, your perception of reality does not have to be objective. It just has to be accurate enough to keep you going, to keep you alive. That's it. All right? We only perceive that which our mind, remember RAS, reticular activation system? Our mind only really perceives what we think is useful. For example, if you look at your arm, right? You look at it closely. Okay, look at it. Okay, say it's like looks whatever it looks like. Now, think to yourself, is there any hairs on there, okay? Now look more closely, like look really, really close. Zoom in more. Look for the hairs now, okay? Whoever can find the hairs gets to be the coolest guy here or something, okay? So, okay, now there's value to that. Now, okay, I'm the coolest. All right, so now you are looking in there, and then now you can see the little hairs, right? Have you guys, in fact, reticular activation system even affects how you look at your girlfriend. You guys remember when you get your cute girlfriend, and then later as the relationship progresses, you start seeing little flaws that you didn't previously see, right? And then you're like, maybe she just doesn't look the same as before, but in reality, you weren't like in that trance. It's similar to how like when you have a girlfriend, the standard that you're going to hold her to is different than just some girl you'll go home with. Because when you're just going home with her, your brain says, oh, just inseminate maximum amount of girls, blah, blah, blah. That's like your reptilian, evolutionary caveman brain telling you that, right? So look, most people are not really too concerned about objectivity, all right? As long as their concept of reality keeps them alive, that's all that matters. Otherwise, you'd be seeing all sorts of random particles in the air and like random energies and stuff like that you don't need to see because it has nothing to do with your survival. So as far as your mind is concerned, if your view of reality has kept you alive for this long, flawed or not, it's easier to bury itself deeper into the existing reality than deal with the headaches of thinking through a potentially harder to understand, more complex view of reality. Ain't that the truth? All right? Think about it. Why do I want to... Have you guys ever just ignored an issue maybe? Like, say maybe you haven't say that you're traveling and you haven't gone to get a deep cleaning for your teeth in a long time. You know what I'm saying? Just like a random example, right? And you're like, I just don't want to have to go and deal with that right now. There's all these different things that we ignore that we don't want to deal with. Maybe you know that your health is going down, right? But you choose not to deal with it because you don't want the complexity of having to learn all this different stuff. So look, what are the ramifications of a new reality? Number one, the doubts that you have the mental energy to learn all the new ins and outs. Number two, the nauseous feeling, and I want to stress this, the nauseous feeling that you're going backwards in your understanding of the world. Because isn't that the truth, right? It's like when you are getting exposed to new reality, there's this nauseous feeling that your understanding of the world is going backwards, and you don't want to face that. And lastly, and this is a very subconscious one, a sort of instinct that people might not accept the new you. And that one is very, very powerful, all right? Most people confronted with a new reality, even a reality that has infinitely more potential, their minds will say, screw off, man. I'm doing fine with this reality, all right? Shut up. No, I don't want to deal with this. We're doing fine with this reality. By the way, in terms of politics, you guys understand in like politics the principle of tolerance? Like having tolerance for other people's views and other people's beliefs? And then other people come and they go, no, this is the truth. Right? That's the truth. We have to impose the truth. Well, a philosophy of tolerance in politics is, comes from, in many ways, that foundation that we all do live in somewhat of a subjective reality. Even if you're a believer in objectivism and human beings' capacity to see the world for what it is, no matter how objective you think you are, there's subjectivity meshed into there. And different people have different lifestyles based on where they live, based on their upbringings, and we all have to tolerate that in each other. That is a principle of tolerance in politics. I just thought that I would mention where that fits in this. But regardless, look, where does this fit in your reality? What would happen if every time that you learned something was more accurate, you started to doubt your existing reality and just went with that?
You never make a decision.
Locked in indecision. No? Do you guys know anyone like that?
Yeah.
Right? People that are continually locked in indecision. They are too open-minded, right? It's good to be open-minded, but there's a point where you're too open-minded. You're looking for too much input. Is it this? Is it that? All right? Maybe it's bad to say that you could, maybe, I don't know, maybe you can never be too open-minded, but the point is that they're just scattered, all right? They don't have that ability to just, have you guys ever heard the expression, people of power make snap decisions and just go with it, all right? Like, you know how you see people in power and they look like they know where they're going all the time? That's not necessarily like that. In reality, they've just learned, it's like, look, you just look at the situation as best you can and you go with what you know at that time. If something happens later, you trust in yourself to rectify it. Now, look, whenever you decide that your idea of reality may not be what you think it is, that puts you into disarray. And when you're put into disarray, what happens to your social status?
Goes down.
So why would people have maybe evolved an instinct to ignore outside input?
To protect their social status.
What's that?
Protect their social status.
Yes.
They don't want people freaking out because they look like they might not know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Even if they suck, they're like, well, I know what I'm doing, even though I suck.
Mm-hmm. So see, we have a mechanism, right? We have a mechanism, exactly as you said, a mechanism which makes us instinctively grip onto our reality so that we can appear to be sure of ourselves, so we can appear to have a strong sense of certainty. Do you guys remember how I said that, how we spoke about people look to others who have a strong sense of certainty? Mm-hmm. So of course, we have a mechanism that says don't be too open-minded to outside beliefs. We can totally blow through this mechanism easily, by the way, and we'll talk about that. But there's a mechanism that exists. So you guys might have felt that feeling where when your reality is expanded too drastically, you feel the need to take a nap, or, right? You're like, I just like to nap anyway, right? Or maybe you feel like you can't sleep. It could be one or the other, All right? Because having to reconsider your worldview is stressful. It's stressful on you, and it's stressful even on your immune system. Have any of you guys ever felt so stressed when looking at a new reality that you could even feel yourself getting almost run down? Sure. Right? Had that experience? Okay, that's good. We spoke about the definition of strength of reality. And when we talked about that, we defined it as like how firm you are in your beliefs. You guys remember that? How firm are you in your beliefs? And then how much that rock-solid, fixed sense of certainty draws other people into your world. So that was like a surface-level definition of having a strong reality. But I want to now expand that definition. Okay? I want to take that definition to the next level for you guys. If you've never considered it like this before, you're going to start thinking about people you know, and you may start to laugh. There's two different ways that people can have a strong reality. One is like this. Here's their knowledge, like that. All right? If that's the way that your mind is set up, okay, what happens if you knock out one of the pillars? Does it fuck the whole deal? Here's what a lot of people who have very firm realities are like, including a lot of very hard-headed leaders in like certain, like, have you guys ever heard of like very ego-based CEOs or like political leaders like who are just so stuck in their own reality? Their sense of reality looks more like this. And maybe even like this. So what's going on here? They've linked it together in a web. One way, and this is absolutely fascinating that human beings do this, and after we talk about it, I would ask you guys to go out and look at people, or at yourself, of course at yourself, to see if you can observe it. What some people do in order to make their reality stronger, to give themselves a stronger sense of certainty, is they will continually link up one belief to another belief. So they'll say, well, of course that's going to work. I did this, and if that's true, then this has to be true. You guys see that? Have you guys ever known someone who say, okay, let me just strain for a second. Come up with some examples. If you guys can think of examples, throw your hands up. Say that somebody says, take a simple thing like, I could never suffocate because I need to breathe, right? So you want to believe that oxygen is going to be in abundance because you feel the need that you have to be able to breathe. Well, it's the same thing. If you tell somebody... of
course it floats. This floats. It's similar to that. Of course that floats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like do you guys remember how I talked about the opaque wall of judgments, comparisons, interpretations, and labels? Yeah. Well, if you're always trying to put labels on things, like seeking security, say, look, there's this label here, and that relates to this, and that label relates to that. Like, okay, think about a pickup method, right? Okay, well, if girls think like this, then in that case, we will pick up girls by doing X, Y, and Z. Do you guys see what I'm saying? Like, we're like, okay, great example. Remember how I talked about a lot of pickup models? It's like the man is down here and the woman is up here? Yeah. So basically, coming from that belief set, you have all these beliefs that are attached onto that. So if you tell them no men are up here, then all those other beliefs are getting nixed out. Yep. So they're not going to be able to hear that, right? They're not going to be able to listen to that because what they're doing instead, do you want to know what human beings do instead? We are continually seeking validation of our existing beliefs, aren't we? How excited are you to find out, like, hey, woohoo, yippee, I just found out that some stuff I thought was wrong.
Pretty excited, actually.
Yeah, actually, I asked the wrong crowd, that one. Oh. Wrong crowd. All right, look, most people, though. Do most people want to find out they're wrong, or are most people excited that they're wrong? Most people are a lot more excited going, what's the people's favorite words? I told you so. Yep. Yeah. I told you so.
I have a friend who ends every sentence with period. So he's
period.
He's like, yeah, so I think this, and that's the way it is, period.
Yep.
And he's like...
Mm-hmm. Some people cannot tolerate ambiguity. Have you guys ever known someone with a very strong reality? He's very persuasive, but he's not capable of tolerating ambiguity. It's either it's like this or it's like this. But they don't like that ambiguity because here's what's happening. Like I said, when we have this kind of reality, you can nix out one principle. It's like, oh, I was wrong about that? Okay. Boom. But all this other stuff is still intact. Does that sound like a strong reality?
Yeah.
Really, right? Other people, if you nix out one part of the reality, well, guess what? This line was attached to this, and that line's attached to that, and that line's attached to that and to that, and those lines are attached to that and to that and to that. So they're not capable of having a shift in their thinking because you would be threatening too much. And guess what, guys? Whether or not people get stuck in these kind of strategies is very arbitrary. Because unless you've been taught this in grade school or something, how are you going to know not to unconsciously attach your beliefs together in a web? Like, I think I'm unconsciously attaching my belief systems together in a web and I'm being closed-minded. I better stop doing that. No one's going to know that they're not supposed to do that. So of course, they're not going to know that they're doing it, so now they're stuck. And this is what creates very difficult people. And this is also why some of like the coolest, most high-status people you know are really hard to get along with. Have you guys ever known a guy who's really good with girls, but he's got this thick ego that you're always talking through, this thick frame of reality that you're always talking to? Yeah? Like you can't just talk to him openly, right? Because he'll be like, no, right? And he's always trying to like shut down your belief about this or that because you're messing with it. But see, a system of beliefs like this tends to be very strong. Like on a certain level, right? That tends to be really, really strong. Like you can get a really hard-headed dude like this, a real hardcore, extreme thinking dude who with women can be very successful. Look, yeah, I mean, do you guys remember the example that I gave in Foundations about like the delusional confidence guy, the calibration guy, and then like that third type of guy? You guys remember that one? Yeah. Okay, for those of you who haven't seen Foundations, the 30-second explanation is this. On one side, you have the delusional confidence guy. His style of pickup works like this. He walks up to the girls, he approaches, and he's talking to them, and if they give him negative feedback, he doesn't see it, right? Yeah. Because he has delusional confidence. He has what's called blind spots. So you guys know what a scotoma is? Yeah. Did I say that properly? Yeah. Scotoma? I've read the term. I've never said it before, I don't think. What's a scotoma, guys?
Blind spot.
It's a blind spot. What a blind spot is like, say a guy's real cool. Say he's got that web of beliefs right there. He's going to throw up blind spots to anything that doesn't feed into his existing beliefs. So if his belief system is like, I'm God's gift to women, okay, I am God's gift to women, and he walks up, he's like, hey, right, starts talking, and then she gives negative feedback, he has a blind spot towards that. As a result, his state stays firm. He holds state. And say that the girl kind of dislikes him, but the interaction still goes anyway. Like, you know how a girl could hate you, but you still talk at least for a little bit? And then slowly, what happens is, because he maintains his state, he has a dominant reality and sucks her into his state. So that's like the natural style, right? Then you have guys that have a very weak reality. Like, they don't have any blind spots, right? They can see. They are like social feedback junkies, a.k.a. a response junkie. You guys ever heard the expression a response junkie? Okay, reaction seeker, all right? Addicted to response. They see every little thing. They can see every little response, total social calibration, and they hate it. Most people who have that, who can see all the negative responses, they get shy. But sometimes they get creative. And what do? They come up with the perfect line for every situation. The perfect opener. The perfect follow-up. If she says this, you say this. If she's giving this reaction, you give the shorter version of the pickup line. If she's giving that reaction, you give the longer version of the pickup line. And it's all good, right? But the thing is, when he goes in there and he's running his lines, if he doesn't get the reaction, what happens to his state? Drops, right? So then he gets blown out. On the other hand, okay, let's get another example. Let's say that the delusional confidence guy, he's being cool, but his delusional confidence, he's just too off the mark. He's just too he's too socially out of step. Have you guys ever heard that expression, being socially out of step? He's just too socially out of step. For example, a lot of vagrants have delusional confidence, right? But they're too far off the mark. Like, you can be off the mark to an extent, but if you're so far off the mark, you look mentally ill or crazy or weird. Like, not like cool weird, but like just fucking weird, all right? Okay? In that case, you're too off the mark. So say the delusional confidence guy goes up, he's talking to the girl, and he's just too off the mark. Even though he holds his state, they just blow him off. Meanwhile, maybe the other guy who's like, who has a little line for everything, he goes up, he doesn't get the good reaction, but he's got that perfect comeback, and then he does get it. All right? So do you guys see how there's pros and cons to like looking for that validation, looking for reaction, or just having total blind spots to it? Well, what's the solution then?
Well,
the third guy, right?
Yeah, most guys in the community, I think, for a while, for that second guy, like super hyper calibrated, whatever, routine for everything guy. And then they get to a point where they start letting go of that reactivity. And then they outdo the naturals because they have core confidence, but it's not delusional. Like, shift it up in their game.
The ideal guy in the community, absolutely. Yeah, one that the success stories, absolutely. And that's the thing, we call it the third guy, which is the guy who's capable of like, he can see the negative social feedback, but he doesn't like focus on it. Kind of like what you were saying, Dan, how like someone's trying to fuck up your shit, and you might know that they're doing it, but it's just so irrelevant. Like you've made the distinction that it doesn't matter. Yeah. Like you've made that decision, like, you know what, this doesn't matter at this point. I'm not going to focus on it, whatever, right? So you can hold your state up, but meanwhile, maybe you also know how to calibrate to a certain extent, all right? It's a mix, okay? That's that blessed third guy, all right? Not just blind spots, not just a hyper calibrator and a response junkie, but that third guy, he has the strengths on both sides. Anyway, look, this is sort of an interesting thing. Keep your eyes open for people who have this type of concept of reality. So what direction does that bring us in? First of all, it redefines our concept of a strong reality, doesn't it? Because somebody who has that type of reality, number one, they have a strong reality, but number two, it's actually weak. Have you guys ever heard the concept that the more rigid the structure, the less adaptable it is? Let's say that life is like a path. And at first the path is nice and wide, right? And here's your belief structure. But let's say that then it narrows like that. And this is your big belief structure. It comes over here, what happens? It crumbles, right? From an evolutionary standpoint, the more rigid the structure, the more likely it is to crumble. That's when we talk about the ego. When you have this grand concept of who you are, and suddenly you get feedback that shows that you're not that person, your sense of self crumbles. This is actually comes back to the old Eastern philosophy expression. Can anyone name it?
Go with the flow.
Go with the flow. Is that an Eastern philosophy? No, I like that. Yeah, maybe it is go with the flow. But look, yeah, spit that out loud. Loud.
Flow like water.
Yeah, say it loud to them.
Flow like water.
Yeah, be water. All right? Be water. All right? Which basically means you don't have that rigid structure. How does that apply in martial arts, by the way, guys? Can anyone explain how that applies in martial arts?
Non-resistance.
Non-resistance, yeah. Basically, in martial arts, and you can read about this in a book called Jeet Kune Do by Bruce Lee, what he's basically saying is this. Say that you have a concept of what fighting is like. You're like, okay, well, most people punch like that. And when they punch like that, I do this response. And when they punch like that, I do this response. And then you get into a real fight in the real world. If they don't attack you the way that you were expecting, your whole sense of self gets crumbled because you had invested your ego into your martial arts method. And so what happens is you crumble, all right? Now, that was an idea in a book called Jeet Kune Do by Bruce Lee. Really fascinating idea and kind of revolutionized the martial arts world from my understanding of it, at least. So look, two concepts of a weak reality and a strong reality, okay? One is, yeah, you have a strong belief system. The other, though, is a flexible belief system that can go through an impact. All right, so the next concept that we have is called altering perception to preserve the map. Reordering perception to preserve the map. It is a concept that's so important that I'm going to ask you guys to just indulge me and humor me and repeat after me, okay? So first I'm going to say, and then you guys are going to repeat it. Reordering perception to preserve the map.
Reordering perception to preserve the map.
Great, I'm going to say it again. Reordering perception to preserve the map.
Reordering perception to preserve the map.
Great. People do this all the time. Let me tell you. So let's talk about a skill set. The ability to quickly sift through ideas and either take them on or reject them is actually a strength and a skill. In fact, even beyond that, the more adaptable that you are in allowing conflicting or paradoxical realities to exist in your mind without being shut down by them, the more readily you can jump between maps, and where other people would fall flat on their face, you will stand. So look, let's look at some examples of paradoxical realities. Do you guys remember how I spoke about how people will oftentimes rationalize, right? They'll rationalize and do what's in their best interest. So that's one concept of reality, right? But do you remember how I also talked about how when you view the best in people and you see the best in all people, even seeing yourself in all people, that people will be very positive and you want to believe the best from individuals? You guys remember that?
Yes.
Paradoxical or no?
No. Yes.
It certainly has paradox on the surface, right? How about a concept like see yourself in others, being a part of the whole, versus something like maybe a Richard Dawkins type reality or a Matt Ridley type reality where we say the selfish gene, right? And how people do what's in their best interest. Paradoxical on the surface?
Yeah.
All right? That's a tough one, huh? Have you guys ever met someone who's really into that whole evolutionary thing and really believes that their whole life is about survival and replication and that they have to get ahead and it's like a Machiavellian type concept? Right? It's very interesting because you see, different people have different sides of personality. Sometimes people can show one side, sometimes people can show another. But whenever I've seen people indulge in that, during the time they are indulging in it, they seem so empty. From what I've seen, I remember seeing Richard Dawkins himself on the Colbert Report. And, he's talking, and, he's saying, people have their selfish intentions, and that's how, they get sex and stuff like that. And I'm looking at Dawkins himself, and I'm like, this guy's an amazing scientist, an amazing man on all levels, and a guy who I would be honored to meet. But I don't think the dude's getting laid. You know what I'm saying? Right? That wasn't the impression that I had. He seemed very rigid. I would actually love the opportunity to take him out to a nightclub. Really. You know what I'm saying, right? And to learn a million things from him. I'm sure he probably has no interest, but I'm just saying that, he's a man of science, and he's taken that path, and I have nothing but respect. But the point is that there's something about someone who interprets the world through that, everyone's selfish and trying to get theirs, and I've got to try and get mine. There's just something inherently whack about that. All right? And so we have to be able to handle those paradoxical realities. All right? Then on one level, we can look at something like the selfish gene, and on another level, we can see ourselves in others and not be thrown off by that. Not needing to resolve it, if that makes sense. Not needing to go, right? And having it to make sense. Why is that? Because the map is not the territory. You guys ever heard that? Yeah, it's an NLP term. The map is not the territory. Every concept of reality that we have, it's just a concept, right? It's it's a label on the reality. It's not the reality itself. So, as great as a map can be, it only has, it's limited, right? It's finite in its ability to give you a knowledge of what you're looking at. By the way, Bruce, did you have a question?
I was going to say I was actually very similar myself. I used to look at what, from an evolutionary point of view, would be beneficial, and then think, I should do that, rather than following my heart. And actually, it was just a defense way of not having to get in touch with myself. So I could intellectually say, this must be the right thing for me to do. Whereas, in fact, what I really want to do was something different. And so those are two kind of paradoxical things that clash that I was just following one rather than reconciling.
Tough one for me, too, because when you go out and you do this, and I know you've been out a long time, you see so much that validates evolutionary theory, huh? Wow, it's this makes sense. When you see the reticular activation system stuff at work and how people go to where the value is and how people follow the warm end of the pool, you are damn, this evolution stuff makes just so much sense. And I believe in this wholeheartedly, and I guess this is just what life is. I guess we really just are these little stimulus responders. That's what we are, and I should just get mine and benefit, right? But the thing is, you should get yours. And if you read Ayn Rand, she talks about how one of your highest responsibilities is to achieve success so that other people can be uplifted, and to be proud of it, not even ashamed of it. But the thing is when you have that kind of get mine mentality all the time, you see people that have it, and another guy's 50 Cent. You guys ever seen 50 Cent the rapper? Does he look very happy? Right? Except, I heard an interview with him drunk the other night on TV, on the radio, which is hilarious. But for the most part, it's Actually, the funniest thing I've ever seen, I don't know if I have permission to broadcast this, but I would love to broadcast it, is when 50 Cent lost the record battle to Kanye West, right? And he's sitting there. I knew he was going to lose months in advance because all the guy ever does talk about is money all the time, and it doesn't sound like there's any interest behind the music itself. It sounds like he just thinks his consumers are a joke. And I'm a fan of 50 Cent's music, so that's why I thought that was kind of funny. Huge fan. Loved his first album, I love Get Rich or Die Trying. So anyway, he sits there and he's like, yeah, I lost. He's like, yeah, I lost. He's like, I don't care. I've got money. So I'm happy, right? I've got money. And he's like that, and just wanders off, right? Like, it's like, I got the money. I should be happy, right? Like, look at his album name, right? Get Rich or Die Trying. Yep. I got it. So he's like, I'm happy, I got the money. He's like, I'm rich. And he just like stumbles off, looking confused into his private plane. Like, why? It didn't work. It just didn't work. All right? Yeah. It's a funny thing. You know?
This whole concept was based on having sold the most amount of records. That's why I fucked up. And
yeah. What he had there, when 50 Cent widened his sense of identity, it was like this. 50 Cent had a very rigid structure. He says, I've sold as many albums as the Beatles, or I had as many singles up as the Beatles or something close to it or something like that. I sold the most amount of records, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm the highest selling artist. Everyone else is a joke compared to me. And then what happened? What did he do there? What's as a quote-unquote pickup artist, where's the similarity?
Validation.
I can get any girls. That's who I am, right? Whenever you base your identity on the way the external world will respond to you, what is the typical thing that will happen eventually?
It'll change.
Pain and crumbling.
Your hubris will end up destroying.
Yeah. Do you guys remember I talked about in Transformations how I was saying how before, from up until 2004, RSC was the biggest company, like massive, right? And I'm like, we're the best, we're the biggest company. And then in 2005, we took all that crazy publicity, right? And then it was like, ooh, RSC's not the bomb anymore, you know what I'm saying, right? And I was just crumbled, you know? And that sort of identity that I had to crumble, right? It was like, right? And then had to start getting through life like that. So the thing is, we think about that, right? Concept of reality. I mean, when you guys think about the 50 Cent one, have you ever heard the expression, it didn't work? Or, let's get to the future? Those are two great ones, right? There's a joke that me and my friends do. It's an inside joke, so you guys are not going to have any idea of what I'm talking about. Where Eckhart Tolle in the seminar. You guys ever seen Eckhart Tolle in the seminar?
Yeah.
Okay? Well, he's just completely funny looking, all right? And he sits there, and he talks about the ego, and how the ego, he's like, it looks around, it goes, let's get to the future. Let's get out of here. Like that. And what is he doing? He's trying to find salvation in the future, right? Happiness is not right now. Right. What you'll find, and what a lot of people find when they get into success with women, is that it's not what they expected. Okay? It did not provide the happiness, all right? And we'll talk more about that, okay? We'll talk more about it. By the way, a lot of people quit success with women altogether, and I don't believe in that. But anyway, look. Getting back on track, look, your sense of reality. The next map. By the way, before I do the next map, a quick wake up. Guys, tell me to feel good.
Feel good.
Tell me to be happy.
Be happy.
Tell me to jump.
Jump.
Ah! All right, look. Okay? Give me a little bit of noise. Look, gotta stay awake here. Long seminar. Look, guys, 4 days. All right. Next big concept. Oh man, this is big for you. Look, if you are the man standing right here, and this is the summit of the mountain up here. Can you see the mountain? The peak?
No.
From there. I know it's a far away drawing, so you guys I'll ask you guys in the front. Can you see the peak? No. So, what peak can you see? That one, right? So, what do? You climb it. So the little man goes up the hill. And that, even being a smaller peak, might still be a challenging one, right? So you get up here. And then what happens? You go, what's that thing? What? You gotta be kidding me. Do you know how high I just climbed right there? But see, here's the thing, right? Do you just get, are you Super Mario? No. You remember Luigi in Mario Brothers 2? He had the big jump.
I will be after the seminar.
After the seminar, Super Mario. All right, thank you. Look. Okay? The one, right? Okay, look. Do you guys remember Luigi in Mario Brothers 2? He could do the big hop, but you can't do the big hop, okay? Do you get to just float on up from here? Unless maybe you took that pixie dust, right? Okay? You don't get to float there. See, you got to go, you want to get to this peak, you got to go back down. So now, look at what you did. You spent this much work going up, then you got to go back down like that. You've got to undo all the work that you did just to be allowed to slowly, painfully, inch by inch, crawl back up to the top. All right? That was me. When I had a method of how to be successful with women, I went to this peak. I said, how high can I get using this way of doing things? These beliefs, this style, this reality. And when I slowly started to realize that I could become a natural, right? When you slowly start to realize you could become a natural, you don't just get to keep going. It's not like that. You got to go back down. You know why? I had every pickup line and tactic in the book. And when I'd be talking to a girl, they'd all want to come out, right? So first I had to just chill out for a while and just get used to talking to people again. Just get used to interacting normally without becoming a frame control addict. Needing to control the energy, the flow of the situation all the time to keep myself in state. Like I actually had to teach myself that. Think about this. What happened was I had learned to get into state by controlling the social feedback. In order to become a natural, what you essentially have to do is learn how to just chill with a regular person and just enjoy the way you feel, right? To have that nimbus when you're not framed. Can you experience the nimbus? Can you have the nimbus just sitting there and letting somebody else talk, right? See? But when you're used to when you're a newbie coming from nothing, like what I was and like what some of you guys are, or maybe a lot of you guys are, you're not used to just feeling good about yourself. But when you can go out and use different techniques to get responses to feel good about yourself, why would you stop? The only solution is give me more, right? Because isn't that the funny thing? When you learn pickup lines and stuff, you can hold attention for a bit. When it stops working, do you say, I need to develop core confidence? No, you go, more lines, right? It's only natural. When I use the lines, it works, so I need more of those, clearly, right? Thinking that you can somehow, entertain the girl, here, come to the bedroom, right? Let's go, okay? So you got to go back down. Then you start the way back up. That is what it's like for a lot of people. Okay? Say that you have a concept of who you are, a reality of who you are. You say, I'm a cool guy. Remember Linda from 5 years ago? I saw her, I wanted her, I got her. To actually start becoming successful with women, you've got to start to realize maybe you're not what you thought you were. You've got to humble yourself. And humbling yourself means going back down. And that's not so easy for a lot of people because there's too many ramifications. Your mind does not really want to do it, all right? So even if you gain sight of that higher peak, oh man, too many stepping stones, your mind doesn't want to do it. Your mind is inherently a lazy mind. That's if you haven't developed it. On the first day, we spoke about how when an astronaut goes into space, when he comes back, his bones have lost density. It's not even that your mind's a lazy mind, it's that your mind is trying to conserve energy. So you have to snap your mind into it. Things like reading books, for example, look. Has anyone here ever gone a couple of years without reading books for a little while, for a part of their life? Gone a few years not reading books. I bet you even more of you than that, right? Really? Everyone's gone at some point a couple of years without reading big books and stuff. So when you go back to reading, what keeps happening? I have a buddy who hadn't read in a long time, and I said, here, you should read this while we're on a boat. And he's like, and he starts to read, and he's like, I think I'm falling asleep. You ever do that? You start to read something that it's just too complicated, whatever, and you just feel like, you just realize, you're like, damn, I think I'm more tired than I thought, right? I just need to just close my eyes for a minute just to get a little bit more energy, and then I can read this later, right? And then you start to read it later and you do the same thing. Maybe you've done that if you have an essay due for school, okay? Suddenly, whereas normally you'd stay up late playing video games, but tonight you just really need your sleep, all right? Okay? So your mind, when not given the opportunity to blossom, will do that. Now, how about when you're reading a lot? You're just educating yourself. What happens then to your mind?
Then your mind won't go to sleep. You're like,
if anything,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Shut the hell up. Get 2 in the morning, you're writing.
Like, have you guys ever also reached a point where you're gathering so much knowledge, your mind hungers for knowledge?
Yeah.
You just love it, right? Your mind is hungering for knowledge. And that's an amazing thing. To me, that's like human potentiality at its finest. So I think that, you wake your mind up, you force your mind to work through the complexities of a new set of beliefs. But look, this is one of the freakiest and hardest to believe with barriers that you will ever encounter. Reordering perception to preserve the map. Now look, let me tell you, even if your life sucks, does your mind care? From an evolutionary perspective, does your mind care if you hate your life?
No.
Are you going to die if you just don't really like your life? No. So it doesn't matter, does it? It's the same way. You know how women might date like a jerk guy and maybe he like drives her nuts, but as long as he has high value, all that evolution cares about is that she gets like that right seed? It's the same thing for you. Even if you don't like your life. Look, say that you know, this is a really common frustration in self-development in general. You know that you're capable of so much more. Let's say that you live in like some suburb and you maybe have a vision for yourself. Maybe your vision is, I want to move to downtown Manhattan, wherever it is, right? I want to move to downtown Manhattan. I want to get the kind of job that I really dream about. I want to start going out socializing with people, meeting girls. I want to get good with girls. I want to get an amazing girlfriend, and I want to be happy with my life. Sounds great, huh? Yep. Sounds awesome. But you know what? You're already living in a reality where you're getting by, right? You might not be thriving, but you're getting by. And so your body says, no, it's fine. This is okay. Imagine it like a plant, all right? Think of a plant. If the plant, because we're a lot like that, if the plant has found a source of nutrition and water, like, okay, here's some dirt, and there's some water here. It might not be the best dirt in the world. It might not be the best, the most water to grow into what I'm capable of as a plant, but it's there. Who wants to uproot yourself and go looking around and risk the possibility of not finding what you hope for? Right? So most people don't want to do that. There's so much that is involved in this. Look, take a wolf pack. If you have a wolf pack, which wolf do you want to be? Alpha. The alpha wolf, right? Everyone says the alpha wolf. Being the alpha male, is it just kind of like everyone loves you and the girls come and let you reproduce with them and everything's hunky-dory? No. Right?
Are you responsible for the survival of the whole pack?
Do you have to expend a lot of energy? Yeah, you got to. For an alpha male wolf, if someone else steps up, he's got to show that he's still the alpha, right? What is that like with people?
Conflict.
Haters. Conflict and haters. You guys ever heard of a hater? What they call that being in hip hop? They call that being a player hater, right? You guys ever heard of a player hater? What is that? What's a hater?
Somebody who is unhappy with their level of success. So they see somebody else doing better, and they're like, "Oh, that's cheesy as hell, man.
Yeah.
I don't like what you're doing. It's not real, whatever."
Do you guys ever read the absolutely? And do you guys ever read the articles where people will be talking about the dating community, and you can tell that just total haterism. It's because that guy is living with some woman that he just totally was never in love with in the first place. He settled with her, right? He hasn't actually had any good sex in over a decade, and he's like, oh, look at this community, it's so creepy. Ugh. Right? Just straight up haters, And then he'll come up with good rationalizations of little things that he focuses on that might be true, and he blows them out of proportion. All right? That's how people are, right? If you're going to hate on somebody, you'll find stuff that is true about them, and then you'll blow it up out of proportion in your mind, and you'll make a belief set out of it. So, one of the biggest games that your mind plays is reordering perception to preserve the map. Your mind does not want you to get high status. Look, why does if a wolf's not the alpha wolf, why does he stay in the pack?
Because it's pretty good being the beta male, too. I mean,
do you stay? Yeah, as long as you get fed, right? Yeah. As long as you stay alive, you're good. You don't have to, and look, less expenditure of energy. Guess what, guys? Becoming like this new guy who has experienced deep identity level change, to get there is an expenditure of energy, isn't it? You know? You guys heard of like the peacock, and how the peacock basically shows these like bright feathers and stuff, which is, it's actually an expenditure of energy, but it's showing the health and vitality. Well, being that outgoing guy, gregarious and stuff like that, there is energy that's being expended. In fact, if you want to get really specific, you want to get kind of really interesting, this is like, we're getting kind of advanced here, but really interesting. If you have a provider male social strategy, right? Like your unconscious mind has recognized, look, the best thing for me to do is just kind of work hard, and then I can just meet girls like that. When you're out at a social setting, you'll feel like it's a waste of your time. Like your instincts are telling you, don't worry about this. Just go home and work, and then you can meet a girl that way. Just don't worry about it. Like your instincts are actually telling you that. It's like this is a wasteful expenditure of energy. Sure. You want to get even more advanced? Would you guys like to do that? Yeah. All right. I have a theory. This is one of those theories I've never articulated before because I think it sounds so stupid. But it's one of those beliefs that I've kind of never said, but I do believe it. So I'll just be authentic. I think that there's two different types of guys that get laid a lot. Have you guys ever heard the expression, the leader of men? Sure. Yeah. I think there's two types that get laid a lot. I think one is the leader of men. I think the other, I would almost call it the wandering nomad. All right? No one's going to find out. You know? Yeah, exactly. I really believe it. Okay, look. Maybe this theory is totally accurate or maybe it's totally bunk, but at least the application of it could have some validity in your life, so I'll explain it. The leader of men in the caveman tribe would have been the guy who kind of just like, he goes out, he kills the animals, he's a dominant guy there, and he probably has a harem. But I really believe this, that there was probably like wandering cavemen that were actually not leaders of men. They had alpha male characteristics, but they just kind of wandered around on their own, and they'd sort of like come into like a pack, and he'd wind up, hooking up with a couple girls in there. And what that would do, this is just a theory I have, is it would bring a new set of genetics into the small little group, right? Because I'll tell you why I think this. Yeah, whenever you know what I'm talking about, right? Whenever you're traveling, you get this vibe. You know what I'm saying? When you're traveling all around the world, you get this vibe, and girls just want to hook up. Like, I mean, it's like, and I've seen it with RSD instructors. They'll come back from doing a tour, and they are just killing it, right? It is incredible. And on one level, you could size that up to like, for example, you know how like if a British person comes to America. Are there any British people here in this audience? Yeah. Okay. Do girls like your accent at all? Yeah. Like, are they like? Do they think it's okay, or do they go into trance?
They go into a trance.
They go into a trance. All right. As an American or Canadian, you get that to an extent when you go to Australia. Not as much as an Australian guy will get it here. But you do get to take a little bit of sweet revenge when you go down to Australia, all right? Okay, so a little bit, not as much as they get. Anyway, there's something about like that different gene pool, right? And like bringing new genes in the tribe. I think women just respond to that. And even if you're not like the leader of men, there is that sort of thing. And I also think that when you have become a leader of men, the temptation can be to stop being the nomad, all right? Like, when you've achieved a certain level of status in life and you're providing an incredible amount of value for the people around you and women can see that, like say that you bring a woman into your work and she sees that everybody respects you and everybody admires you and you make people feel good and they're happy. Well, of course, women are going to respond to that, right? But when you do that, you kind of feel like you're above the game now. Like cold approaching is just so silly and so stupid because you've got your whole thing with women on lockdown now. Likewise, when you're like the wandering nomad, you kind of feel like all that leader of men stuff is just so unnecessary, Just roll out, man, grab your motorcycle or whatever, like the stereotype, roll out in your motorcycle, or in real life just, fly around and catch buses or whatever and taxis. But the point is, you just travel around and you wind up hooking up with girls, including a lot of girls that might be with that leader of men. So the thing is, I I think that there's two different types, all right? I think that that's sort of a sub-level, all right? So that's sort of a side tangent before we wrap this section. Who knows if it's true, but it's an interesting way. Now, here's what I learned on boot camp, guys. One of the freakiest things that I learned on boot camp, all right? And we're going to end off on this, and I'm going to leave you with this as we go into tomorrow, as we go deeper down the rabbit hole. So one of the things that I learned on boot camp, okay, so I'm going to kind of whine and bitch a little bit, but then I'm going to show you how rather than bitching about it, I proactively fixed it and how the educational lesson that you guys are going to learn. So when I first started running boot camps back in 2002, sometimes I would have a guy that I was working with, and I would do like incredible demonstrations, like the stuff that I would show him would be amazing, and he himself would do amazing. But at the end of the night, he would be bitching that he didn't see enough demonstration and that he himself sucked and he didn't learn anything. So I would get that back then. And I would go home raging because anyone who's taken a program with me knows I put my heart and soul into those programs. So the thing is, like, I thought, why? What is going on here? But eventually, I began to notice commonalities. I began to see and actually be able to predict how successful somebody would be within 30 seconds of meeting them. How successful that they would be on a boot camp. But I have ways of changing this, by the way. As a teacher, I have ways that I change this so that everybody will be successful. Now, essentially, say that you have a low concept of yourself. Have you guys ever heard the expression, what you think of other people is a reflection of what you think of yourself? You guys ever heard that one, right? Like, usually the guys that are the most judgmental and spiteful are oftentimes just reflecting their own self-hate, all right? Well, look, this goes even deeper. Say that you have a concept of yourself as being a chode. What we have here is called the success barrier. Well, look, what's going to happen? Say that he has it right in front of his face, specifically how to get girls. Well, guess what? Now he would have the knowledge, right? He would know how to do it. And beyond that, what if that guy, okay? What if that guy, not only that, had done amazing approaches, all right? What if he had done amazing things that night? And he would have to realize, look how great that I did. Let's give some numbers here. Let's say that you do 10 approaches, right? And 7 of them are great. Hell, let's say 4 of them are great, okay? If you're a new guy and you got 4 girls who you've never met in your entire life to actually be into you and connect with you or be attracted to you, that's pretty cool. Because your buddy who's sitting at home playing World of Warcraft, the only thing he got attracted was the orc princess. You know, right? That's it. And I know guys that actually have World of Warcraft and EverQuest girlfriends, all right? So look, okay? They're probably fucking fat dudes playing on the other end. So, right? Okay, Mindy or whatever, right? Okay. All right, so basically, a guy who's really positive, right? Like a guy who believes that he can be successful, if he believes it, he'll go out, and even if he does 2 good approaches, you know what he's going to remember? The 2 good ones, right? And say that he saw some good stuff. He's like, you know, I think I saw how to do it. And I did these 2 good ones. And, I had some rough landings, but if I could just, focus on those 2 good ones, I could get where I want to go, right? Meanwhile, you'll have a guy that might have done 9 amazing approaches, but he had the 1 bad one. And if he has a success barrier, what's he going to focus on every time? Yeah, all right, reticular activation system, that's exactly it. He's going to focus on that 1 bad one, all right? This is such a predictor of success, it's ridiculous. It is a tremendous predictor of success. As a teacher, by the way, one of the things that I always do when I'm teaching is I always focus on the positive. Like if I'm teaching a boot camp, I'll be like walking by the pillar where the good approach took place. I go, hey, that's where you did really well with that girl. Great job, right? And I'll keep repeating over and over. Do you remember when you did this? It was great. Hey, repeat back, or like every approach that a guy does when he comes out, I'll say, tell me something good about that approach. And I'll continually hammer in that positivity. Likewise, I'm talking about my teaching here just to teach you guys how to teach yourselves, okay? Just sort of some insights that I learned. When a guy comes out of a bad approach, you want to know what I used to do? I would give negative feedback. I would give the criticism. So he'd get blown out, and I'd say, oh, dude, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. Doesn't that make sense on the surface?
Yeah.
Right, makes sense on the surface, right? He went wrong, give him the feedback. That's what the program is. Right. That's what it's supposed to be. But the problem is, that's going to get you further and further into your head.
Betas.
Yeah, you kill the state.
Yeah, and kills the state, right?
How to wing.
What's that?
The article, How to Wing, where you're talking about when you criticize your wing.
Yeah,
Say to him.
yeah. When you know, that's what he's talking about, which is really great feedback, actually, is basically, I wrote an article about how to be a wingman, and essentially I was saying, if your wingman gets blown out, the last thing you want to do is go, hey, bro, you did this wrong, and you did this wrong. By the way, why do guys sometimes do that to each other? And it's not on purpose, there's no bad intention, but why do guys do that to each other?
They want each other to go up.
Well, yeah, that's the good intention. But from a state perspective, why do they start bossing them around? What are they trying to get for the state? Puts them in state, right? Puts them in state. You guys ever had someone do that to you before? And honestly, have you guys ever done that to someone before?
Yes.
Yeah, you know? Yeah, me too, right? So that's like the first several years of me doing this stuff. So basically, what I've learned is that when I teach a boot camp, I actually view learning as like a funnel that dilates, right? So like the more in state that I can bring my group in a boot camp, and by the way, I can highly recommend every person here to take a boot camp, okay? Because these are the lowest ratio, most high quality programs on the planet that you'll ever find. And I am a Nazi when it comes to quality control, right? I basically give most instructors nervous breakdowns about quality control, all right? Most of them have nightmares and stuff. Me going, fucking produce transformation, get the fuck out of here, all right? That's the culture around RSD. Now look, you're teaching the program. And if he's out of state, say that I'm teaching you out of state, this is like the funnel. So I can only pour in a little bit of information. So before I'm even going to give feedback, I want to create state, get you in state. And I'm trying to expand that funnel. Once I've got the state raging, then I can say, oh, by the way, earlier on you did that, and you can improve it like this. And the funnel's there, and the learning can begin. But I'm always moderating that as a teacher in real time, okay? Real-time teaching. So now, what does this mean for yourself in terms of what you focus on? Most guys go out, and like I said, they can't be successful because you get that negative approach. What happens? You focus on it. Have you ever maybe written an article on a forum and like 20 people said it was great and one person like flamed you, and then that one bothers you the most? And that's the one, you don't give thanks to all the people that gave you props, but you start responding to that guy? Yeah, maybe I did that a couple times in the early years, right? Okay, if you read my old archives, right? So basically, that's what most people do, though, is they're continually focusing on that one negative one, forgetting about all the positive ones they have. Well, what's the solution then? Open your mind up. Allow yourself to focus on the positive. There's been has anyone here ever read my article called The 25 Points?
Yes.
Okay, did you guys like it?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, you know what's interesting? As awesome as it is, and I love the article, I actually don't use it for teaching purposes anymore live, because it's negative.
Yeah.
That's right.
I was actually thinking about that a while back.
Awesome. Because what happens is, like, I wrote this article called The 25 Points, and what it was like the 25 most common mistakes that I had ever seen on a boot camp. If you can go to www.rsdnation.com or www.rsdwiki.com. We actually have a full wiki dedicated to RSD. So basically, you can find those articles. And the 25 points, as great as it was, and I was very happy with it because it really nailed out a lot of the errors that people made, it puts them in their head. It gets them focusing on the negative. Well, there was a study done where they were, and my friend Igor told me about this, who's actually into like, mind type stuff and hypnotherapy. His name's Igor Lidichowski. He's a good buddy of mine. So what he was saying, and I don't know if it's true, and I don't care if it's true, if I remembered it properly. Here was the story. It was something like this. Apparently, they were training people how to shoot a gun. And so the FBI would train people how to shoot the gun, and they'd say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and don't do this. What they did was an experiment, and again, I don't know if this is true, was they took an old lady and they said, look, here's like the 3 most important things that you have to do, like the positive things, like what to do, not what not to do, okay? And they taught her that, and apparently she learned how to become like a crack shot in like 10 times faster or something than all these FBI guys. Has anyone heard of that story before?
Tony Robbins.
It makes sense, though.
Tony Robbins did a study with a bunch of, I think it was Army guys that he was teaching how to shoot.
Pistol training.
Yeah.
Pistol training. And what he did is they had those don't.
Yeah.
And he just reframed them in the positive. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because your mind doesn't accept negative programming.
Yeah.
So if I tell you, like don't think of a pink elephant. You just thought of a pink elephant.
Yeah.
Right. So you're like, don't talk too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, instead of saying talk slowly, be comfortable, you know?
Yeah, it makes
Exactly.
sense. You can latch
Yeah.
onto it, right? Like, do this, and you can constantly see it, and you're like, am I doing it? Yeah, do it.
Imagine this. Remember the road in Maui that I was talking about?
Yeah.
Imagine you're driving that road and the guy in the passenger seat's going, "Don't drive off the cliff, bro."
right, whoa.
Dude, don't drive off that cliff, bro. We do not want to fall off that cliff.
Isn't that what he's
Yeah.
saying on Time of Your Life? No, because I know you've seen it. Like what you
I mean, that was a
on.
long program, probably. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What Tony Robbins said, yeah, in Time of Your Life, he says,
Focus on what you want.
yeah, he says it's like you're driving a race car, and if you spin out, right, if you look at, your instinct is, where's the wall? Where's the wall, right? And you keep looking at it, and then you'll drive into the wall. Instead, you got to look at where you want to go, okay? But anyway, coming back to the idea of success barriers, okay, and let's say focus on success barriers here. Again, people will remember the approaches that matches their existing reality. You remember how we said reordering perception to preserve the map? Well, what people will do, if your map of reality is, I'm a chode, what are you most likely to remember on your program?
Bad approaches.
Or on your night, rather. The bad approaches that you did, right? If you're a guy who has an empowering self-concept, remember we talked about identity yesterday? If you have that empowering self-concept, you have that high on the totem pole belief about yourself, you're going to focus on the positive. And what happens then, you ever learn how to play basketball and maybe like, you know, in your mind, even when you're like at home, you're imagining dribbling, like, you know, you're imagining taking shots? You guys ever done that? Sure. Maybe with hockey, like you imagine that kind of like as you're daydreaming? Well, when you're going through the motions properly, your mind is feeling those motions, right? Like what a nice, smooth approach looks like. And so essentially, when you're focusing on the positive, you become so focused in that and immersed in that and not thinking about all this negative nonsense that eventually you blow up. You blow up and you get the skills that you want. I guess the thought that I would leave you with is this. We've had a very long, interesting day today, and we've gone deeper down into the rabbit hole, all right? And maybe we're like 75% of the way down, because tomorrow we're going even deeper, all right? And all of the knowledge that we've built up to this point is building towards tomorrow. So we talked today about what your reality is and how your reality draws other people in. And we talked about how your reality can also hold you back or empower you. The message that I want to leave you with today, ultimately, is to see the best in yourself and to see the best in other people, all right? So when you go out tonight, and I like to leave a sort of an idea to go out with every night, I want you to see the best in yourself and cut yourself a ton of slack, and I also want you to see the best in other people. Because when you see the best in other people, you assume that other people are seeing the best in you. That becomes a part of your reality. And I really think that in this world, if more people thought like that, the world would be a much better place to live in. That's the end of day 3. Thank you guys very much. Thank you. 4th day. All right, can you guys see I'm psyched?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, I'm psyched. All right, look. We've been going deeper and deeper, okay? Deeper down the rabbit hole here, all right? And what this program has been about, like I said before, this is not designed to be ego-based learning, all right? Like I said, ego-based learning is like, okay, I have to know, like, okay, I want to learn how to be good with women. There's all these different, you know, tidbits of information out there that I have to learn before I can feel confident to go out, all right? Do you guys remember how we talked about, you know, the different pillars in your reality and whatnot? Well, for a lot of guys, isn't it funny, just having read all of the how to get girls theory, for them, when they walk up to a girl, they feel like that's what makes them good at getting girls. That is like where they get their confidence from. It's like, I've been through all this. And then maybe they think, oh, well, there's this other piece of information I don't have yet. Maybe I'm not ready to be good with girls before I have that piece of information. What this program is about, it's a little bit of a different approach than that. At least that's my intention for it. How you take it is up to you. But the way that I intended it to be taken was, it's like we start off over here at social conditioning, and then we move over here towards a place of self-esteem, authenticity, that kind of thing, all right? And so everything that I've been talking about here in this sort of immersion, this 4-day immersion, has been designed to give you little signposts to move you there, all right, to move you over there. So what that basically means is like, when you think of why we do this for 4 days, because, this program for me is like an accordion. I could do a 1-hour version. I could do a 10-day version. The reason why we do a nice 4-day-long program is so that you have taken 4 days out of your time for a full immersion, all right? You have been surrounded by it. All of your peers in this group are immersed in it, all right? And it's funny because this is almost like our reality right now. Like, this is my reality. I feel like I've been here forever, right? Like, my whole life is like being at this seminar. That's how it feels right now. And it's funny because this seminar, this is the 4th day, it will come to an end, right? And it will be like this sort of blur in your mind, like these like intense 4 days of like, self-examination. And there'll be a couple things that you remember out of it, maybe, like a couple sort of key pieces that you remember out of it. But what I want you to get out of it more than anything is like that vibe, all right? Like that feeling in your body. If you could just get that out of it, all right? Like that drawing state from within, that feeling good, and seeing the depth in things, to me that would be like just the most incredibly massive success that I could have hoped for in doing this, all right? So let's keep going more, down the path and towards that path. We've been talking a lot about internalization, all right? And so what internalization means is when you have something on a level where you never have to think about it ever again, all right? And remember, we talked about the theme for this program, deep identity level change, all right? That's really what we've shaped real social dynamics to be about, right? Our sort of like easy to grasp identity is deep identity level change, all right? And that's what I'm looking for here, all right? That's why our other program is called transformations, okay? Our programs are not typically called like, how to, get hosts in different area codes, or like how to, how to have like, be a big pimp or whatever. It's like, if you look at like the way that I've entitled these programs for you guys is like, foundations, transformations, the blueprint, right? Things like that, like that's kind of, even with like say the Jeffy Show, for example, like that's sort of like an expression of Jeffy's life and the almost absurd nature of that, all right? That's the kind of stuff that, the kind of directions that I just love to see people thinking in. So that's why we do it like that. But in terms of internalization, look. We talked yesterday about these success barriers, okay? So we have success barriers. We all have a fear of our own success because things will change. Our friends might not like us anymore. Our bearings will not make sense anymore, all right? We have certain bearings of how the world works, and when we move beyond, right? Remember that little place in the totem pole? When we move up, our world stops making sense, all right? It forces us to have to think more. It forces us to have to learn the ins and outs of a new lifestyle. All right? Because if you think about it, look, what are some of these new ins and outs? All right, so let's come up with your most utterly ego-based fantasy of what it would be like to be awesome with women. All right? Let's just think about this now. Let's have fun with it. All right? Maybe, the kind of jokes like, the giant purple pillow, just surrounded by a harem of gorgeous women of different shapes and sizes and colors and stuff like that, all super hot, just feeding you grapes and massaging you and rubbing oil on your body and like, eating whipped cream off of each other. All right, okay, right? Like what? Like, can you guys? Anyone have any more they want to throw out there? Did I just like nail it, or did I nail it? Okay, all right, okay. So look, when you think about that, it sounds great. And in many ways, the entire, success with women industry is fueled by that sort of like, desire that guys have. It sounds great, but let's say, ask ourselves, what if you got it? What if we got it, right? Like, what if you had that? Would you be ready to handle that? Well, there's certain psychological factors that are at work here. All right, so you guys know how we say that success barriers are bad? You guys have all heard that, right? Yeah. Success barriers are bad. Okay? We hate success barriers. We must blow through all success barriers. Why would our minds have something that's bad?
Protect you.
Yeah, what is it, and what's it protecting you from?
Some context. From something.
Useful within a context. What's that?
The unknown.
The unknown.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff your mind thinks you may not be able to handle.
Yeah, might not be able to handle it.
Right.
You know, you might be put into paralysis. Remember we spoke yesterday about how if you're always looking at like different belief systems all the time and you're not cemented in some kind of reality, you would just be in total disarray. What would happen if you got put in a position of being the president or prime minister?
Everybody's on you.
Everybody's on you, right? How much criticism does George Bush take? Right? You know what I'm saying? Okay. Let's say that you don't like George Bush. Say that you like Clinton. How much criticism did Clinton take? How do you guys like it when you find out some of your friends have been trash-talking you behind your backs? Do you like that?
No.
How would you feel if there's entire channels dedicated to ripping on you? Okay? Right? And like, there's like... do you know what it's like to be high profile? Think about this. You've got like people, like comedians, that are imitating you for a living. Think about what this is like, okay? Taking your mannerisms, imitating you for a living, okay? You've got like, political satire magazines tooling your policies. You've got the media. You do this like some great interview, right? You do an amazing interview, and the media takes like some little clip of it out of context, prints a massive headline, and tries to represent you in whatever way they think will sell newspapers, okay? You also, that's more like the ego-based stuff. How about the fact that you're just responsible for the whole friggin' country? How about that one? All right? Like, see, we look at our leaders and we're very quick to criticize, And I can probably look at any leader and just run them into the ground and criticize. But at the same time, maybe, there should be a level of empathy there. Because look, the kind of social pressure that these guys are dealing with, the way that their reality has to be set up to be under that kind of a spotlight, the way that their mind has to be prepared for that, to be able to function well, to make the right decisions, even if other people don't like it, but they know that it's the right decision, those kinds of things. They have to be groomed for that from like a young age, right? They have to have at some point in their life said, I'm going to be a leader, and have started to groom their minds and their day-to-day behaviors to go in that kind of a direction. So how about as a guy who would have the giant purple pillow and the sort of like Greek-style harem of feeding you grapes and whatnot? Is it as simple as that? Like, do you just get all these girls on you and that's it? Right? Real simple, right? Like, you just got all these girls on you and you just kind of lie there in bliss forever and that's your life. Is that how? No, that's not how it works. First of all, coming from the most basic of basics, say that those women are giving you like congruence tests all the time, because attractive women will tend to do that. If you're not centered in your reality, that's going to start to mess with you, right? That's starting to mess with your head. How about if the girl is more attractive and is more attractive than you perceive yourself as being? Let's say that you perceive yourself as being this attractive, and you perceive her as being this attractive. Well, now all of a sudden you're nervous. You're outcome dependent around her, and if you think that you're going to lose her, that might cause a lot of pain. Right? Like, if your unconscious mind understands that you'd be devastated by being broken up with, what's it going to do to protect you?
Try to keep you together.
Yeah, try to keep you together, and also success bears. Maybe even put you in a situation where you wouldn't even get the relationship in the first place. Yeah, self-sabotage. Okay, your unconscious mind will do that. What else? How about this? Do you think that other guys are cool with it when you've got the big harem? You've got a bunch of the, as I was kind of joking about yesterday, the wandering nomad type guys trying to get in on there and get his seed up in there, all right? Okay? As is the bizarre human nature. So, if you really think about it, how about jealousy? Have you guys ever felt jealous towards a girl that you're dating? Yeah. What if you've got a big group of women and they're super attractive? Okay, who here has ever dated like a super attractive woman who gets hit on 50 to 100 times a day? Anyone ever done that? Right? And does she come home and sort of like tell you these stories about guys that approach her on the street? Or maybe like you check her MySpace and there's all these orbiter chodes that are all like giving her little text messages. Hey, what's up? Hey, good to see you at the club. That kind of stuff. All right? How about the guy that's... oh yeah, I'm all into like, this kind of music. Hey, you should come check this out, right? And she's like, what? She's like, I have friends. What? I want to go check out his music, blah, blah, right? And of course, that's like the smoothest type of guy there is, right? Those are the guys that are going to hook up with your girlfriend. So the thing is, right? It's not that cheesy guy who's like, yo, what's up, girl, right? That's not the guy you got to worry about. It's like the laid-back dude who's just totally cool about it, all right? So the thing is like, as a guy, when you have success with women, you have continually all these other dudes that are like, you know, vying for your girls, all right? Have you guys who had attractive girlfriends ever have guys that hated on you because they knew that you were her boyfriend? Yeah. Okay? So you've got haters, you've got people that want your position, all right? When you're a prime minister or a president of a country, all these other people want your position. And it's like, remember like when you're a kid and you play like the king of the castle game and these like other kids are trying to pull you off so they can get up there and then they're like, now I'm the king of the castle, and someone pulls him off? When you're in any kind of position of high status, no matter what it is, your world is going to go into disarray. So a lot of the concepts that we've been speaking about this weekend are the kind of concepts that allow you to center yourself and to be in that type of position with ease. All right? Because you want to know something? Let me tell you the God's honest truth. Being in a position of high status, once you understand it, is easy. It's no more difficult than being in a position of low status. In fact, once you've completely come into alignment with it, it's actually easier than being of low status and dealing with all the self-hate and mediocrity that goes with that. It's getting there and dealing with, you know, the headaches of all this new social pressure. That's the difficult point, and that's where the success barriers come in. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, I want to learn how to get that perfect 10. But you've got to ask yourself, could I even emotionally handle that? Who here has ever got a phone number of a girl that you really, really liked, and then you were nervous to call? Ever had that? Oh, yeah. It's that same factor. If you're on a level where you're even nervous to call that girl, how are you going to feel when you're dating her? Right? You're thinking you want to date her, right? You're nervous. You're like, oh, I'd really love to be dating this girl. But at the same time, if you're nervous to even call her on the phone, are you really emotionally ready to be dating her? You know? Right? Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, I would say just the opposite. If you're nervous to call a girl on the phone who's super attractive, you should call her anyway. You should try to date her, see if it works. Sooner or later, you will get a great girl, and then deal with all the nonsense that comes with that. And you know what you learn? You go, well, yeah, a lot of nonsense did come with it, and I acted like a dumbass, and I learned from it. All right? That's what's going to happen. I mean, for me personally, I had to screw up several relationships with different girls by making complete dumbass out of myself before I learned to just chill out, right? Before I hit a level where like my girlfriend can come home and be like, oh, this guy was talking to me and blah, 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 and I'm just like, oh, that's nice, you know, cool, right? And I just don't even care about it. I just get on with my day. I had to learn from that nonsense, all right? I would encourage you guys to go out and make mistakes, okay? Go out and make mistakes. Go out and learn lessons. I'm not saying you should try to make mistakes, but put yourself in a position where mistakes might occur. And if they don't occur, then that's good too. All right, so that's what a success barrier is. That's why you may feel, blocked, all right? That's what these unconscious barriers are. And isn't it kind of funny that with all of these unconscious barriers in place, and they're massive, that guys will come into a program about success with women hoping to come out just fixed immediately, right? Fix me, okay? Isn't that like, that's like the classic magic pill desire of the newbie? Like, I thought that I would just get fixed and you could fix me, right? And that's the thing. The concepts that we're talking about here, how do you get good with them, all right? We've talked about these concepts this weekend. Look, we talked about being in the moment. Does that mean that you necessarily went out last night and like, ooh, I learned that I need to be in the moment. It's all fixed now. The problem's solved. Thanks. It's not like that. But the point is that by learning about it, what we've done is we planted a seed. So maybe you go out tonight and you're stuck in your head and then you screw something up and then you go, oh, yeah, that doesn't serve me. That's not a behavior that helps me. That doesn't serve me. But then maybe later you become more, as we said, self-forgetting, right? And you're more in the moment, and then it works amazing. And then you go, oh, yeah, okay, right? And then say that you have that knowledge and it's in your mind for, say, a year. Well, after a year, the amount of time that you spend fuddling around scattered in your head versus the amount of time that you're in that nice zone that you want to be in, the ratio will slowly start to tilt more in your favor. Look, even if you're only in the right zone 5% of the time, and by next year you're in that right zone 10% of the time, you've doubled it. So be happy, right? Maybe within 5 years you'll be there half the time. It just, this stuff takes time. And by the way, just as a sort of side tangent to that, you guys might think that getting to your destination is so great and that all the stuff that you go through to get there is like a problem. That's not really true. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not what life is about, right? Life is about moving towards that sort of, core self and that authenticity. And the journey that you take to get there, that's the journey. That's meant to be enjoyed, all right? So even if it's difficult to get there, that's fine. That's your life, right? That's your life. That's totally fine. As much as I would love to snap my fingers and just be the man that I want to be someday, I wouldn't change the fact that there's a journey to get there. So look, here's where things get kind of Jedi-like, all right? You guys ever watch the movie Return of the Jedi? Yeah. You like it? Yeah. Yeah? Which one's who here, his favorite one is Star Wars? Put up your hand, the first one. Who here likes number 2 the best? Who here likes number 3 the best? Just curious. All right, so it's about half split between number 2 and number 3. I used to like number 2 the best, but now I like number 3 the best. All right, so I'm kind of a nerd. Do you guys remember the part where Luke says, he's like, what does he do at the start of it? He says, he's like, you will let me in, or something like that. What does he say? Yeah. Any hardcore nerds here? What does he say to them? Yeah, like he says, yeah. He's like, what's that? Yes, your master will be pleased with you. These are not the droids you're looking for. All right? And he's like, yes. Okay? That's kind of a funny one. I think between that and the movie The Matrix, you know the movie The Matrix where Neo, if he believes that he can jump over the building, he'll jump, but if he doubts it for even 1 second, he falls to the ground? I think that both of those movies connect with all guys on some level, doesn't it? Yeah. Right? On some level, right? Whether you want to admit it or not, you see that, you're like, yeah, there's something there, man, right? There's something about that. And the reason why, as guys, we connect with that is because we've all had those, Neo in the Matrix moments or, Jedi moments where we had that total belief. And maybe it was something as simple as just someone went along with something that you wanted to do. Maybe you're at a party and you said, let's go over here, and everyone was just totally into it. Or maybe it was like with a girl, all right, where you just totally led the situation with full belief. And, to me, what's glorious about those moments is not just the fact that you got people to listen to you. I think that that's a symptom of it. But to me, what's glorious about it is the way that you felt when you did it, right? Like you were feeling so good, and then that stuff just started happening. But really, it's that good feeling that we kind of crave, right? That we kind of, as guys, we love that. That's why we do things like sports, martial arts, mountain climbing, writing, or anything that can just sort of lead us towards that feeling. That's what we crave. Anyway, look, what I call that is anticipated responses. And the guys who are very Jedi-like with women, okay? Remember we talked about, as I've said countless times this weekend, this stuff is not necessary to get a date. This is the advanced stuff. This is the stuff where this is not necessary for your life, but rather as a hobbyist, if you as a hobbyist just love this area, this is like your hobby and you're into it, and you just want to see how far you can take it, understanding how anticipated responses work is just one of those advanced level concepts if you love this stuff and you love social dynamics and you just want to take it to the fullest, all right? That's what I'm talking about. Now look, when we think about anticipated responses, another way of calling an anticipated response is an assumption. All right, guys? An anticipated response is the same thing as an assumption. So everyone has a certain reality of how they expect to be treated. So look, your assumptions and anticipated responses are your map of how you expect the world to respond to you, which includes, number 1, whether a person of your status can expect to be treated badly or well. Number 2, whether people are generally trustworthy or manipulative, friendly or mean. And number 3, whether there's an abundancy or scarcity of people in the world who could like you. Now, I really want you guys to get into this. Really think about it, okay? You have a certain, this is it, man. This is we want to get down to the core of what natural game is. It really comes down to your anticipated responses and your sense of reality. So look at yourself very carefully. Give yourself a real thought about who you are in your reality. Ask yourself, do you like yourself? Like, do I like myself? Ask yourself that. Do I like myself? Ask yourself, would I hang out with somebody like myself? And you're like, oh yeah, man. All right. Would I hang out with somebody like myself? Ask yourself, if I saw a guy that looked like me with a really attractive girl, would I be like, what's that about? Or would I be like, of course he's with her? All right? Really think about this. And this is not just an inner game exercise, guys. This isn't like funky step number 6 to feeling really great, all right? This is like really getting down to the core of it. There's a certain concept, we call it when you believe that a girl can like you just for you. So do you guys remember I was talking about Tim when he'd come back from Europe? And he could walk up to a girl and be like, hello, my name's Tim. And the women could just see that it was within his reality that he anticipated that response from them. He anticipated the positive response, that girls would like him just for him. I want you guys to slow down and think about all the ramifications that this has on every level, on all levels of your social interaction. Because this simple anticipated response is, you could make an argument, I don't know if this would be true, but you could definitely make a solid argument that this is everything. This is like the whole deal. Really think about it. First of all, can you guys see the difference between someone who anticipates people to like them just for them versus someone who doesn't?
Yeah.
What are some of the differences? Say that you're eating dinner with someone who doesn't expect people to like. He doesn't expect you. Say you're just having dinner with a friend. All right. One of the reasons I'll use like friends or guys as an example is because I think that having general social skills will instantly translate with attractive women. So I don't want to make this all about attractive women. So let's say you're having dinner with a guy friend, okay, and he doesn't anticipate that you're going to like him just for him. What are some of the behaviors he might have? Cautious, sure. What else?
You might talk like nonstop during dinner.
Yes.
Just like trying to chill.
Speak up.
When you're just like trying to chill,
Mm-hmm.
like you're just eating dinner and you're like, this is cool, nice restaurant, it's quiet. And he'll just be like, dude, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm. Right? And what does he want to do? He wants to show you good things about himself, right? He wants to paint that picture of like his life to show you all the cool stuff that he's done. And that's not inherently bad. That's certainly not inherently bad, right? Because people like to share their lives. And I think if someone has cool things in their lives, I would love it if they share that with me. But at the same time, isn't there a difference between sharing your life and the good things about your life just as you're vibing versus when it's like that person has that feeling of lack inside and he needs you to understand that about him. He needs you to know those things about him before he can feel comfortable. Do you guys want to know one of the biggest pitfalls of becoming more high status? Yeah, when you're around people who know how high status you are, you feel totally at ease, you feel totally good. But when you go into an environment where people have no idea who you are, you feel this urge to try to show them things about yourself so that they can see how high status you are. Approval seeking, right? And once they know who that you're that kind of person, then you're at ease. But until that happens, you're not at ease. And this is why when a guy walks up to a girl and he does not anticipate that the girl will like him just for him, he's walking up and he's where? In or out of his head? And what's he trying to process in his head?
What would she like most about me that I can convey?
Yep. Absolutely, right? How about, what's that?
He's not being who he is because he has to generate his behavior.
Yeah, he's not being who he is because he has to generate his behavior, right? And like, if you really think about it, on the first level, we will learn, like, the first sort of, like, unenlightened level would be like, oh, like, check out this watch, girl, and like, yeah, I got this fat car, girl, right? The second level, when we learn the game, we're like, look at this cool routine, right? Or like, look at this, like, funky thing about yourself I'm going to show you, right? And, hey, look, having a great car, telling a girl great stories is awesome, right? Showing girls cool things or having like great stories to tell is an awesome thing. There's nothing inherently wrong with it at all. But the question is, and this is the difference between the guys that are kind of, intermediate level success versus like the real pros. And I'm talking like the real pros who, as I've said over and over, getting girls is just an afterthought, right? The guys that have such an abundance of women in their life that even thinking about it is almost absurd because it's that abundant. For a guy who is on that level, he can approach, and sure, he can spit great stories or, the role plays or any of that kind of stuff if he wants or not. But at the same time, he's doing it from a place where it's just for fun as opposed to a place of lack. So you see, what a lot of guys are doing is they're like, If this is where it takes to feel good, that's the threshold, they're starting down here, and they're trying to tell all their stories and stuff to get to there, as opposed to already being here and just trying to do it to build the vibe and to make it fun. All right? So that's a huge difference. Now look, what's interesting is that people are always doing things to cause their anticipated responses to come true. And isn't that ridiculous, how that works? All right, so look. Question. Who is it easier to approach? A girl who believes that she's highly attractive, like a really attractive girl, or a girl who's not attractive? Who's generally going to respond better?
Highly attractive that believes it.
Mm-hmm. Why is that counterintuitive? What do most guys think?
You're
The
attractive.
girl will appreciate you more, is what they think.
Mm-hmm, right? You go for the girl who's less attractive. Hey, man, isn't it simple? It's so simple. If she's down here and you're up here, then it's obvious that when you approach, she'll be so appreciative. She'll be like, wow, this guy who's so much more attractive than me. He came and talked to me. This is so cool. This is the jackpot. Yes. Okay? This is my lucky day. Right? Yeah. This is my lucky day. This awesome guy came and approached me. I'm so appreciative. Oh, tell me more about yourself. You're so awesome. No, that's not how it works, is it?
No.
What typically happens when you approach a girl who does not believe herself to be attractive?
Giant bitch shield. Or
Right?
Severe blowout.
Okay? Severe blowout, giant bitch shield. Essentially, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, she thinks that you're toying with her.
Yeah.
She thinks that you are patronizing her. She thinks you have an agenda. So what does she do? Look, think back to when you guys were young, okay? For any of you guys here who are not good at all with women at all, like completely incompetent, as was I, did you ever have a situation where maybe like a couple girls who were kind of hyper or something walk by and they're like, oh, you're cute. Did you guys ever have that?
Yeah.
And then you're like, did you ever do this? You're like, whatever. Did you guys ever do that?
Yeah.
I can remember doing that, where like, I'm not saying it happened often, because it might have happened about once every, maybe once every 2 years. But maybe, I'd be like 15 years old or, 17 years old, walking through the mall, and some girls would be like, oh, you're cute, or hey, that's a cool shirt. And I'd be like, whatever, right? Like, as if, like, oh yeah, you're just trying to like get with me, right? I know the deal, okay? Isn't that interesting that people who are insecure always have to verbalize it that they know the deal? Have you guys ever noticed that? Right? Like, I know what you're trying to do to me. Okay? Have you guys ever had girls who you come and you talk to, even if you're being totally genuine, and they're like, I know you're trying to pick me up, or is that a pickup line? Yeah. Right? And like, they have to verbalize that. They can't just know it. Like, they can't just, like, even if you were trying to be manipulative, why couldn't they just know it and just be like, whatever, go on with their life? But they have to verbalize it to qualify themselves to you on some subtle level that they know the deal. All right? And that's a very common feature of somebody who has a sense of low self-esteem. But isn't that interesting? The girl whose anticipated response is that attractive guys won't like her will have these behaviors. What do? What do her behaviors do? They absolutely make her unattractive.
They want to sabotage it, basically.
Mm-hmm. Sabotages it?
Yeah.
What does it keep her reality intact, or does it mess the reality?
She doesn't believe it, so...
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It maintains her reality intact, right? The guys are big jerks, and the guys are, And my girlfriend has a friend like that who is always going out trying to meet guys, but whenever a cool guy comes along, she thinks she's being patronized, and so then she blows him off, and then she's just chronically single and can't meet a nice guy. If any women are watching this, what I would say is, if an attractive guy comes and talks to you, be receptive to it. Doesn't mean you have to necessarily sleep with him. Be receptive to it. Don't blow yourself out. Now look, how about guys? All right. In many ways, it's the same thing. Does anybody here have a friend that can never seal the deal? Right? Does anyone here have a friend who every single time that he gets a girl back to his house, he says that he wasn't in the mood or she wasn't hot enough? Anyone have that?
Yeah.
Has anyone here themselves done that?
Yes.
All right? A very good buddy of mine, when he was learning to be successful with women, he would, at first, now he's been doing very well, but at first, he would always get the girl home, And then I call him the next day and be like, so what happened last night? He's like, oh, dude, I was just so tired. I just wasn't feeling it. You know? And it was always like that. You know, oh, she wasn't hot enough. You know, there was always some kind of reason. And I have seen this kind of like fear of closing the deal thing, which, by the way, do women appreciate that? No. Do you think a woman appreciates it when she goes home with a guy and she's chosen you, and then you're like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to go ahead with this? In fact, most of the time, if you have a girl back to your place and she has chosen you and you don't act on it, what's going to happen?
It's over.
Done, right? The window was open. If you don't jump through before it closes, it's going to close and you're out in the cold for life. All right? That's generally speaking how it works. In fact, all of us here have probably had a situation where we had a girl that we really liked, back up to your room, and then you say, I really like this one. I'm going to play it solid and I'm going to get to know her better. Right? Huh? Because you like her, right? You like her and you say, I'm going to treat her different than all those other girls that I got because she's special. So I'm going to isn't that a funny one? You think that when the girl's special, you're going to treat her different from all the other girls that you were successful with? Genius, huh? Aren't we geniuses? Right? Okay, that we do that? Like, that's kind of a funny one. Do you know what the first thing that I say when guys come? Because a lot of the time, guys that are really successful, all right? When a guy's really, really successful with women, typically, not always, but very, very commonly, he's being successful with women. You know, he has abundance of women in his life, but he has that desire to meet that one really cool girl. And he has this image in his mind that when he meets that amazing girl, that the way that the interaction is going to go is going to be more like like that movie with Ethan Hunt or whatever, Waiting for Sunrise or something. Do you guys know that one? Before Sunrise, where they have like these like long, drawn-out talks and stuff like that, and then like it just slowly escalates. And sometimes that can happen. In fact, I have a buddy whose entire game is like that, and he's really, really solid. Some guys, that's like their style. But you see a lot of guys that are really, really great with women. Like they're just great at making the party, making everyone have fun, and just hooking up just winds up being like this totally natural thing. But then they meet a girl they really like, and what do? They try to transform into Ethan Hunt. All right? They try to or Hawk, is it Ethan Hawke? Ethan Hawke, right? They try to transform into this like romantic hero that's going to like save the girl from an awful night of sex in their bedroom, right? And let her and like respect her and stuff like that. And the girl's like, look, all that respect shit that we talk about, we just do that for you guys anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do you think that girls put up these fronts and these walls? Do they do that for themselves?
No.
It's for us. Right? It's because guys are stupid. It's because guys are like, ugh, if she had sex, quickly, then clearly she's not a quality girl, right? That's just like, and that's that judgmental behavior. So as guys, because women know that guys are so stupidly judgmental and so full of double standards, they'll put that front on, all right, instead of just doing what they want. In fact, one of the most qualities that makes the best of the best, like the guys that are really, really phenomenal with women, is a complete air of non-judgmentalism. Like, no judgments. They know the deal. They understand how things work. They totally get it. And so a woman can feel at ease to have fun around you. All right? That's absolutely one of the qualities that separates the great guys from the guys that are clueless. All right. How about a guy that assumes everyone is friendly? Has anyone here ever met someone, like known a guy, maybe a guy friend that you had, that just assumes that everyone in the world is his friend? Have you guys ever had a day where you just felt like everyone in the world was your friend and you could talk to strangers and it was just totally cool? That's, again, an anticipated response. Somebody who believes that the entire world is a friendly place, he's going to have all these little behaviors. And what do those behaviors do?
They attract the friendly people, too.
Attract friendly people? Does it reinforce his reality?
Yeah.
Of course. People are always reinforcing their realities. In fact, you guys remember how when we talked about button pushing, we said that a girl who's really hot, if a guy shows no interest in her, she will start flirting with him to get him to show interest? Sure. Remember we spoke about that? Because someone disrupted her reality? Well, it's the same kind of thing. In many ways, girls have that quality where it's like, oh, what, that guy doesn't think I'm hot? And then she'll go and she'll flirt with him to get him to flirt back, reaffirm her reality, and then just get on with her night. So, look, all of this comes down to the simple fact that people are always trying to maintain their reality. They are trying to make their world make sense. Does anyone here have... Is anyone here Mexican? Any Mexicans in the house? My girlfriend's Mexican. Yeah? All right, did your mom serve you tortillas growing up? Yeah. All right. Well, my girlfriend's mom is from Mexico, and she served a lot of tortillas. Her mom's hitting into her 60s now, and her doctor's telling her she needs to lose some weight. So the doctor says, don't serve tortillas, right? Say that this mother has nourished her children with tortillas all growing up, right? And that's like a staple food in her diet. And her doctor says, don't do that. Think about what's going on there. Is she going to want to take on the new reality, or is she going to want to bury herself further into that reality?
Bury herself further.
Right? Most people are not willing to shake up their reality. All right? They're constantly trying to keep that reality the same. They don't want to take on the new bearings. They're constantly trying to reinforce their reality. Think of where you're doing this, guys. All right, look. Even if you take this program and you really believe in this program, and then you go out and you look at the world and you find an example of something that contradicts with this program, which inevitably you'll have to because the world is always shifting around. What a lot of people do, and this is as a teacher, I hate to see this, they say, no, but that has to go with that principle I learned at the blueprint. But you see, that's exactly what I'm trying to teach you guys not to do. Like, I could spend 4 years coming up with the most accurate maps that I can, but no matter how accurate the maps are, they're still not reality. A map is still a map. A map is not the terrain. So the thing is like, people are always trying to maintain their reality by seeing the world through a certain lens. Take the fucking lenses off, all right? Allow yourself to experience reality head on. Okay, I guess that's what I'm saying here. But be aware of how different people use these sort of anticipated responses. We're going to get into the pros and cons of this. We're going to go deeper. All right, so what is a self-fulfilling prophecy? I'll give a quick definition. A self-fulfilling prophecy is when by the strength of your beliefs, the reality that is stored up in your head becomes the reality of your actual life. Okay? This happens because your mind is always seeking out evidence, even if it's obscure, to reinforce your existing beliefs. And then because of the confidence that you have in those beliefs, you draw people into your reality and inadvertently get them to act in ways that you don't expect. So let's go back to the Denny's example. I walk into Denny's. I say, hey, is it open right now? He says, hey, it's closed. It's closed. I say, I know it's not closed. He says, it's closed. And I start getting angry, right? Remember I said I felt like I want to punch him in the face? Well, the thing is, what is he doing there? He has a certain reality, which is, what is that guy's reality?
Somebody's going to come in here and ask me if it's open, and I'm going to have to tell them it's closed.
Mm-hmm. Let's go even deeper than that. What is his reality about people and how they're going to treat him?
There's a lot of assholes out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of assholes out there, right? People are jerks. People are obnoxious. So even me, a guy like where I'm like consciously studying how to like be a nice guy. Like I'm like making efforts to be a super nice guy as I can. And basically, even me, he's by the strength of his beliefs. Remember how we talked about the person with the dominant reality wins? By the strength of his beliefs, he's inadvertently making me want to be a dick to him. All right? I kind of snapped myself out of it, but I felt that. Like I felt like I wanted to be a dick to him. So that's what a self-fulfilling prophecy is. How about victims? Somebody who believes that they're a victim and that people are out to abuse them. Think about the consequences of this. Think about the consequence of assuming that people in the world are negative and out to screw you over. What is that going to do? If you believe that the entire world is out to screw you over, that a lot of people are by nature untrustworthy, what's your life going to look like? You're going to suck people in to do that. This same belief goes for relationships, right? What happens when a guy thinks that his girlfriend's going to cheat on him all the time? She does, right? When you assume people are going to be disloyal, they'll be disloyal. That's why when we talked about, remember on the first day we talked about rationalization and about how it's good to understand that people are rationalizing creatures and that we're all rationalizing creatures. But at the same time, you can't have that kind of belief about people because if you're always thinking that, people are going to do it. You're going to find evidence of it. You're going to motivate people to do that. So you have to, on one level, maybe know the deal, but on another level, you have to assume the best in people. So remember last night we said assume the best in other people? A lot of that's what it comes down to, all right? These are self-fulfilling prophecies. And a guy who's really amazing with women, what does he know how to do? He knows how to create a self-fulfilling prophecy where women love him to death, all right? He knows how to suck people into that reality. He has positive beliefs, sucks people into that reality. So look, when you approach a girl, you go up, you approach. If you fully believe that she's friendly, of course, there's a really, really, really high chance, like 95% plus chance, she's going to be super duper friendly. Look at the different mindsets that a lot of guys have. A lot of guys are like, oh, you know, I've got to go up here and prove my worth, right? I've got to self-seek by this girl's response to me. I've got to get my validation from her. They're not even thinking, they're not even just assuming she's friendly. A guy that's really great with women, when he's walking up to a girl, it's like he's just walking up to a friend almost, in a certain respect. I mean, it's different, but there's a lot of similar elements in the sense he's just walking up talking to a friend. He's just assuming that she's friendly. So he's not even coming from that place, all right? He's not even coming from there whatsoever. And you can see that written all over people. You can absolutely see it written all over somebody who just assumes everyone will be their friend, and someone who doesn't. Have you guys noticed that in attractive girls at all? When you see attractive girls, do you see how they, in their minds, they assume that whoever they walk up to will be like probably super friendly and probably will even supplicate them and do whatever they want?
Yeah.
All right.
So that's kind of like plowing through, where you assume that they're going to be your friend, you just keep on talking until they're hooked.
Yep. That's it.
How much? I have a question. How much does verbalizing this help? Like, say you want to adopt that belief, that actually walking up to a girl who maybe you don't even know if she's friendly or not, but you want to assume it. You just walk up to her and say, "Hey, you seem friendly. I wanted to meet you. My name is." Right? Like,
do you know what that does? People always want to be congruent to their identity, right?
Right.
So, have you guys ever heard that in a relationship, one of the best ways to get your girlfriend to be an amazing girlfriend is to compliment her on qualities that she hasn't even cultivated yet? Right? What do most guys do when their girlfriend acts like a bitch?
They call her out.
They say, you're a bitch, right? What if you just say, you know, like, and you don't even do it sarcastically, you know, I really love it when you're just, I really love it how, you know, those moments when you're just really friendly, it's just really great, and that's what I really like about you. What does that do to someone's unconscious mind?
It makes
Gives them a good feeling.
Oh, man. It's deep, what it does.
The boot camps too.
That's entirely how I teach at boot camp, on all level, though. I don't just say, oh, I think you're great with women. When I'm teaching a boot camp, I treat you the same way I treat my buddies, 100%, all right? And see, the thing is, because when I'm with my buddies, we all do really well, right? So pull everyone up to my level. Now, the thing is, the human mind. Stop and think about how the human mind works. Do you remember how I said on the first day when we spoke about identity, that your identity, you probably didn't come up with it all by yourself like you thought? Say that you were younger and you stepped up and tried to be a leader, right? And then everyone liked you for it. Your unconscious mind goes, ooh, look at that. I should become like a leader and then everybody will like me. Likewise, maybe you became like creative and you did well, like you drew a stick man when you were a little kid and then like your teacher was like, yay, you're really good. And then your mind goes, look, I get acceptance from that. If you're saying to your girlfriend, I really like it when you're really nice, what are you doing to her mind?
You're rewarding good behavior.
What if she hasn't even acted well though?
Well, then you're trying to reinforce good behavior.
You're creating a new identity. You're creating an identity for her. You're basically shaping the identity that you want, right? You're shaping that identity. And this works in business. This works in all areas. On the other hand, sometimes you do have to call out bad behavior. It's a mix. It's called common sense. Everything is a mix. All right, so let's say that you think really well of yourself, all right? And you walk up. You're out. Key of controlling the frame. You guys all heard of frame control?
Yeah.
Frame control is like controlling the underlying meaning of reality. You guys heard of that? Yeah. All right. Say that you want to have frame control. So somebody comes up to you and he starts teasing you. All right? Somebody here. What's the most common tease that you get when people tool you? Do you have one? We all have one. Lazy. Okay, how about when you're out in a nightclub? Do you guys ever try to tool you?
Yeah. Smarty pants.
Okay, so say you get called smarty pants. All right? Okay. Awesome. Okay, so look. Someone's like, hey, smarty pants, right? Yeah. And there's two different ways that you could interpret that, right? When we talk about self-fulfilling prophecies, two different ways. So way number one that a lot of people interpret it is that being called smarty pants, it makes them feel bad, right? They're like, I'm being condescended, right? And they're like, oh, okay. And then what happens? That little look in your eyes, in your pupils on some level, shows that you lost a little bit of state. Okay, your state went down a little bit. And so the person sees it, and they go, nailed him. Yep. I called him out. right? And then it reinforces the reality in those people's minds that they were correct. How about if you get called a smarty pants, and what I bet you probably do, just from what I know of you, you probably are like, oh, yeah, right? Okay, just don't care, do you? You think it's fun, right? Okay, so, and if you do that, and you treat it like it was a joke, what does it reinforce in the other people's minds who said it?
Doesn't care.
I was just joking, right? The same asshole, the same schoolyard bully type guy, or whoever, who comes by and tools you, he's like, hey, smarty pants, and you're like, ha, 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 and you laugh about it, like not ha, 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 but it's like a sincere laugh, not a weird-sounding laugh. If you're doing that, then in his mind, he's not going to say to himself, but I'm a big jerk, and I was trying to condescend him, right? And now everyone can see that I'm an incompetent jerk, and that I'm not good at what I do, right? I'm not effective at tooling people. He's not going to think that. He's going to think, I was just kidding. Right? He's going to rationalize that in his head as I was just kidding. Rather than accepting the fact that he's a dick and he was trying to condescend you and it didn't work because he's not strong enough, he says, I was just kidding. He's just a good old boy. All right?
Besides that, he also needs it to hit. Because if you don't accept it, then it really isn't a hit.
That's exactly it. It doesn't hit.
It's like if you say something, I need to accept it. If I don't accept it, then you got this little moment where we're trying to get the reality to get into life.
Yep.
At some point, it just one wins, and then it's over.
Yeah, stronger reality wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so see, that's the thing. And believe me, I get tooled excessively when I'm out. And sometimes I get tooled well, okay? Like, I have been mocked and tooled. Some of the stuff that has been thrown at me over the years has been so on point, like so piercingly on point and accurate, right? And I'm like, wow, that is mean. That's incredibly mean, okay? And it has taught me over the years to just kind of let it, like water off of a duck's back. And the woman is looking to see whose reality is going to win out. So if guys are verbally sparring with each other, and the guy hits you with a really well-pointed jab, and in your mind you're like, that was quite clever, right? You're like, damn. You're like, ugh, okay. Actually, that's something that I do. When a guy hits me, you know how they say, it's almost like in martial arts, like someone hits you, just sort of go with it rather than trying to fight it. A lot of the time, if someone just disses me really on point, I'll like look, like they hit me hard, I just look at them, I'm like, like that, right? And I just do that, I'm like, ugh, got me, all right? And then that's it. No shift in state. You guys see that? Yeah. As long as there's no shift in state, you don't need to win the verbal sparring match. All right? Say that the girl gives you a congruence test and she hits you hard, right? And you know how they say always have the better answer? Right? Like always have that clever comeback or whatever? Sometimes you don't. Right? So, look, it's really cool to have a great comeback, but sometimes you don't have a comeback. Yeah. Sometimes nothing's there, right? You look, you're like, here's my time for my comeback. Nothing there. So what do? Just called unreactive. Right? Just unreactive. All right? That's it. Really simple. You just allow it. All right? Basically, like, you want to know when I really realized it? I was out with one of the guys who's really well known for coining the term, always have a better answer. And I was watching him talking to a girl. And she threw a really good jab at him, right? Like a really hard-hitting congruence test. And he was just like, And he said, and he looked at her, and he was just like, you're crazy. All right? And it was like not even close to as clever as her line, right? At all. Like his comeback sucked, okay? But then he looks over at me and he's like, see? Always have the better answer. Like that. And I'm like, that wasn't the better answer. That wasn't, right? But he believed it was the better answer. Do you guys see that? Yeah. So he believed that it was the better answer.
His reality was stronger.
Yeah, his reality. See, he's like, man, I love having the better answer. Okay? It's like that delusional confidence, right? You may not have the better answer, but if you think that you had the better answer, you've got it. Okay? And in fact, if someone hits you with like a really hard congruence test, okay, do you guys remember when you're a school kid, right? And you had some new, remember, you know how school kids like learn new swear words and stuff like that? Like you first learn the finger, or maybe like you first learn some new way to mock someone. And then you go up to the different kids and you use it, right? Being that kids are crazy. And then you go up to the one kid and you say it, and he throws something back at you. He's like, your mom, right? And your mind, you're like, but that's not as funny as mine. But you can't win. He's like, your mom, all right? Have you guys ever heard that? That's what Jeffy does sometimes, right? If Jeffy gets hit with a congruence test, he doesn't know how to answer. He's like, your mom. And that's like, it's like you just don't let it enter your reality, all right? Look, first of all, I don't want to, from this conversation, I don't want to impose some kind of reality here like the world is filled with congruence tests and everyone's out to shit test you. Have you guys ever seen the newbie at this stuff that thinks everything in the world is a shit test?
Yeah.
All right? Like everything's a shit test, okay? And I must dominate the reality all the time. And they become, that's called a frame control addict. Has anyone here ever been a frame control addict or known a frame control addict? Okay? So that's a common thing. I'm not trying to push you guys in that direction. I'm just trying to show you guys about how the nature of self-fulfilling prophecies. So, like I said, you go up. Anything that you don't like in your reality, you don't have to acknowledge it. You only acknowledge the reality that you want, and then the self-fulfilling prophecy comes to exist.
Like Pepe Le Pew.
Like Pepe Le Pew, that's right. The same thing goes for scarcity and abundance. The same thing goes for relationships. If you assume, let's think of it this way. How would a self-fulfilling prophecy work in your relationship in terms of your girlfriend cheating on you? Say that you think, whatever, she's not going to cheat, right? So you don't get jealous. And then because you don't get jealous, you're a challenge. Say that you even have a girl who's constantly cheating on all her boyfriends, which is certainly not uncommon. Let's say that you have that. Now let's say that, unlike these other guys who get super jealous, you are completely secure with yourself, and you're completely secure with the relationship. All right, so you do that, and then now you're a challenge to her. So what happens when you're a challenge to a girl? What typically happens?
She pursues you.
She pursues you. Does she think about you a lot?
Yeah.
Have any of you guys here ever had a girlfriend who was so into, you were such a challenge to her just because you were so indifferent to the outcome that she like obsessed with you and talked about you with her friends all the time?
Yeah.
So say that your girlfriend's out and she's at some nightclub and there's all these way better looking and hotter and richer and more powerful guys than you. And they're all hitting on her, which is certainly Los Angeles an inevitability no matter how great you are. And she's obsessing over you with her friends. Well, now that's not going to make any difference, is it? Meanwhile, if you're jealous, if you're like that jealous boyfriend and you're insecure, what have you done? You've given your power away. And so as a result, she feels like she has all your validation on all levels, and then some other cuter guy comes along and she's like, whatever, and then she goes and does it. Not only that, but she's like, what does she say? Well, he thinks I'm doing it anyway. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right? He's carved out an identity for me that he thinks that I'm doing this. I guess I might as well do it. All right? So again, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. By the way, as a quick counterexample to that, if I was discussing relationships more in depth, I would get more into this. At the same time, you do also have to establish boundaries, right? In a relationship, I remember my friend Hubi, he said, that's definitely true, but on another level, it's like you're on a straight path, and if the girl veers too far off the path, you do have to, kick her back on a little bit to keep her moving in the right direction. So it is, again, it's always a mix. It's never one way or the other, all right? So look, we see here how these kinds of self-fulfilling prophecies allow us to confirm our reality. And by the way, guys, if your girlfriend does go out and cheat on you, does it necessarily mean that it was your fault? It could just be her issue and not yours, even if you did do everything right. So don't take ownership of that. All right, so here's the next one. Flinching, or you could call it retreating. Flinching or retreating into your mind. The exact opposite of anticipated responses is flinching or retreating into your mind. Actually, it's not the exact opposite would be just thinking you're a dumbass. But basically, what's going to blow it? Flinching or retreating into your mind. Doubting yourself. So, anticipated responses are great. Having assumptions about how you're going to be treated, awesome. But there's a rule to them. You cannot flinch. If you retreat into your head, they don't work. All right? So let's say that you're talking to a girl from across the room. Have any of you guys ever been at a restaurant with your friends and you just point at a girl and you just go, like that, and had her got her to come over? Anyone ever done that? Right? When you do that, if you it can work great, right? And she'll start laughing because it's funny. It's meant to be light, right? It's meant to be playful and funny. You can do that, but if you retreat into your head when you do it and you start to doubt it, what happens? No go, or even creepy, right? Isn't it funny the thin line between high romance and like creepy stalkerishness, right? It's a very fine line sometimes, right? Like the same guy that like sings at the girl's window could be like the most romantic guy in the world that every girl like hears about and goes, oh, right? He can also be the creepiest, scariest man ever, right? So, okay, it's a fine line between, romance and stalkerishness. And you've got to know that line. It's a very subtle line. So, you call her over. If you retreat into your head, no go. Have you guys ever had it where you do it and she totally wants to come over, but she's with her friends and they're going to judge her and she can't come over and she gets befuddled? Yeah. You guys ever had that? Yeah. And she starts going like this. She's like, I can't, right? And you just go, right, like that, okay? And then maybe she ditches and maybe she doesn't, all right? But it's funny to watch that, and it's funny. Do you remember I spoke about how you are like an island, and the girl is like the boat checking out the different islands? Well, see, she's in the reality of her group, right? That's the reality that she's in. Like, I'm in this group now. That's the reality that I'm operating through. And then if you're over here, and you've got this reality, which it's cool and it's normal, permissible, cool behavior for you to come over here and have fun. If your reality outweighs the group's reality, then she gets pulled over. If not, then no. Okay? Okay, so here's how we're going to sort of end this off. This knowledge can both help you and totally screw you up. Think about that. This knowledge can help you because it allows you to do all sorts of things, to recognize phenomenons, and allow you to do all sorts of things that you couldn't previously do. But if you're going through life in general, thinking, do I have the stronger reality? Do they have the stronger reality? Am I flinching? Am I in my head? Am I in my head right now? Did I just retreat into my mind? Oh, yeah. Because if I asked that, then I did. Oops. All right, okay? So that's not going to help you. So again, we talk about how we can look at it on a large scope or we can look at it, much simpler. So the much simpler one is have fun. All right? Have fun. I'm going to teach you guys after this different ways to put yourself in a state so that you're not thinking about this stuff. This is the best way that I could put it to you. When you're in the science lab, be a scientist. When you're out, be a person. You know what I'm saying? It's totally fine and dandy for us to come here and to speak about this stuff and really look at it and really engage ourselves in it and really understand it. It's enjoyable. It's teaching us both about human nature, which is awesome. It's teaching us about our own habits and when we get drawn into other people's realities. And it's teaching us about social dynamics. But if we're thinking about this, it's one thing to understand it and to go with the flow. But if we're thinking about it when we're out, that is only going to go against us. And isn't that ironic? Isn't there a funny irony there that in working to understand social dynamics more subtly, you could actually become less socially savvy, less socially skilled, right? You could lose that coolness about you, that grace, right? You lose that stuff when you're focused on it too much, okay? So it's one thing to come in here and speak about it, but you also have to be able to disconnect yourself from it when you go out. That's really what it's going to come down to, okay? And more than anything, and I think that when it comes to imposing your beliefs, imposing your reality around you and having anticipated responses, I think the thing that makes it stronger than anything else is the idea of offering value, all right? And what that means. And let me explain that. A lot of guys carry an insane amount of guilt about sex. They think that sex is about being playerish. They think that girls don't enjoy sex. They think that they're getting more out of sex than the girl is. They don't view it as offering value. All right. Some guys have a concept of sex that the girl just lies on her back and says, "I will think of the queen. Get it over with." Right? Let's do it for God or something. You know what I'm saying? Right? You guys know, was that the Victorian era? Right? You know what I'm talking about? That's what they'd say, right? Because you're not supposed to take pleasure in sex. you know? But then the girl's like, well, we have to have children. She's like, just get it over with. I'll think of the queen. Like that, right? I'll maintain my virtue. And a lot of guys are coming from that like sort of like Victorian era frame of reference about sex. Is that the Victorian era? I've been out of college for a while. I knew once. So really, if you don't believe that women enjoy sex as much as men do, if not more, then when you're calling that girl over, you're saying, come over, you're going to feel like you're taking value. You're going to feel like you're trying to trick her into something. And this is where the idea of sort of like lying versus having integrity comes in. And it's an interesting debate, and I kind of want to end it off on there. On one level, spinning, in some ways you could even call it like a seduction or like an experience for a girl, right? Like when you're really spinning an experience for a girl, you're making an experience for her. And you don't necessarily have to like get all logical about everything, you know what I'm saying, right? But on the other hand, having a high level of integrity as a person and knowing that you always offer value to the people that you interact with is going to allow you to come across so much stronger. All right? And this really cannot be understated. I cannot understate this. The problem with being, I don't want to say selfish in a bad way, all right? Because being selfish and looking out for yourself is a good thing, all right? Caring about yourself and respecting yourself, that's a good thing. But being selfish at the expense of others, like taking value from other people, not structuring yourself as a human being that offers value to everybody, and becoming from a scarcity mindset, when you're calling that girl over, there's little unconscious little mechanisms that are going on in your mind that are saying, I don't have integrity and I'm trying to pull something off. And that's going to make your game a hell of a lot weaker. So on the first day, you guys remember we talked about, women, and then a lot of guys think men are down here. They believe that, right? And they're constantly trying to create that change of power so that they're up here. If you don't believe that men and women are equal in value, and you don't believe yourself as being equal in value right from the get-go inherently, then when you're calling that girl over, you will be, even on the most subtle level, flinching into your head, feeling like you're trying to pull it off. And that's why, do you guys remember yesterday I said I don't like the word close? And the reason why is because even though it's a funny word, and I see it I was watching Entourage yesterday, which is a show that I love, and they use that word, so I was kind of using it. But the reason that I don't like the word close is because what does the word close imply? A sale, right? The word close implies a sale. And so if you're coming from a mindset that you're selling yourself to the girl, and that you're coming from a position of lower value, you are going to retreat into your mind more often. And so that's why, as silly as this sounds, okay, as utterly ridiculous and nonsensical as this sounds, have you guys ever heard the expression being pure of heart? You guys ever heard that? Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. It sounds cheesy, but my belief is like the closer that you can get to your integrity, the bigger the payoff. I really believe that when you get closer to your integrity, like when you stop wanting to take value from people, and you can learn that when you interact with people, you are offering them value, B, that sex is as valuable to the woman as it is to you, and even beyond all that, that just you're someone who just goes with the flow of nature. You're a part of the greater whole, and you're not trying to build yourself up into from a nasty little bridge troll into some kind of super titan or something like that. And when you're just coming from that really, every year that goes by of your life, when you can come closer and closer to that kind of value-giving mindset, the stronger that you're going to be in the field. Because that's when you're you go to open the girl, and you're like, hey, right? And you fully believe that you are offering value. You have that really, really high level of integrity about you. And as a result, you're just so much stronger with women. Okay? And, it's natural to get into kind of messing around and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that you necessarily have to be truthful about everything all the time, or that you need to feel guilty about it, because, look, a pickup is a pickup, right? I mean, the girl's saying all sorts of nonsense. You're saying all sorts of nonsense. I tell girls I'm a male stripper all the time. Okay? All the time. Because I think it's funny, right? I'm joking around. And it's just so funny to see the look on their face, because they actually think about it. They're like, really? Right? And they look, right? And they think about it, okay? And I loved it. It's so self-amusing to me. I laugh so hard when I do it. It just tickles me to do this, right? And so I'm not necessarily saying that, when you're flirting with the girl, you know, you're like a kid, right? And you're playing around, and you know, you're messing with her, and she's messing with you. Not always, but a lot of the time. And that's cool. That's flirtation, all right? That's totally cool. 100% cool. But when you're trying to, like, you know, say something that, like, is moving you away from, you know, who you really feel you are and moving you away from your integrity, that's what's going to be pulling you into your head and getting all that noise going in your head. So if you want to shut off that noise, right? You want to shut off the noise and just feel good. You guys remember I said slow down, okay? Take a deep breath, just slow down and feel good. Then really, that is where your integrity comes from, and that's what allows you to, you know, part the Red Seas or pull the girl over, ask for the phone number with that total belief in what you're doing, not the slightest flinching, not the slightest retreating into your mind, and with a really incredible amount of power. All right, so fully believe in yourself. Doesn't that sound great in theory? I just have to fully believe in myself. But I don't. How are you going to get that? All right. Well, there's a process that you go through. All right. Look, what we call this. You remember the word that I said yesterday, trust? Well, the same goes for this. Trusting in a foreign set of bearings. All right. I'll say that again. Say that. Okay. I'll get you to say that with me, guys. First, I'll say it, then you say it. Trust in a foreign set of bearings. I'll say it again. Trust in a foreign set of bearings.
Trust in a foreign set of bearings.
Good. All right, see what happens here is that when we learn new bearings, we have not developed the reference experiences yet that we could trust in them. All right? So let's think about how we get our bearings in the first place. Where do we first even get our bearings? All right, well, look, back when you were a kid, you learned to walk, right? And although what you are being called upon to do is probably a lot harder than anything you're being called upon to do now, you do persevere, don't you?
Right.
See? But now you're a smart guy, right? Like back then, you know, you'd get up, you'd kind of walk along a little bit, and boom, hit your head on the table, fall on the ground. Get up again, walk along, maybe hit the wall. Boom, you fall down again. You get back up. But now you're smart, right? Now you're a smart guy, and you're not just conscious like when you're a kid, you're now self-conscious, right? You've got a self-image to protect, right? Now, when we do the metaphorical equivalent of that, and we bonk into the wall, what do we say to ourselves in life?
I can't do this.
Oh, I can't do it. I suck. I can't let other people see me doing this. Oh my God. Imagine if you're a baby and you try to learn how to walk like that. Imagine if a baby had these kind of mental crises. We'd all be crawling around. So, as a kid, you learn how to walk. You're being called upon to do much more than you are now, but somehow you find a way to persevere. What's going on there? All right. First of all, you're learning the ins and outs. You're learning the ins and outs of how the new behavior works. Second of all, you're gathering evidence. Okay? You're gathering evidence. You're looking at what other people are doing, and you're experimenting. All right? You walk too far forward, you fall. You lean too far backwards, you fall. You stay centered, and you move along. Eventually, you don't just hypothesize how to walk, do you? Do you guys have to think about moving one foot in front of the other as you walk down here? No, because you have now fully trusted in the bearings. All right? So your mind has gone through the motions, and now you have what's called an anticipated response. You have assumptions. Okay? And that is what internalization is called. Who here has ever heard the expression internalization? All right, good. Well, what internalization is the process of trial and error that you have to go through to create an assumption that you never have to think about ever again. All right, so for something to be internalized, it means the following things. First of all, you do it naturally. Second of all, you're in the moment when you do it because it doesn't require any thought. And third of all, you never have to think about it ever again. All right? So at this point, it's probably occurred to you that learning to be good with women is an identical process, isn't it? Yeah. You're a kid again. You have new bearings that you have to internalize. You have to learn that it's okay to approach strangers. It's not a bomb. You're not going to go tap, tap, and your hand's going to blow off. All right? Okay? You have to learn that it's cool to ask for a phone number. You have to learn that, wow, people are actually friendly. When you approach strangers, they're friendly. All right? These are new bearings that you have to internalize. Now look, as I'm walking around through here, I'm not like, all right? How about when you sit on a chair, If you're right here and you want to sit down, you just go right there. Am I like, okay, I have to make this work. Total belief, like in the seminar, total belief. Like that? I'm not thinking like that, am I? All right? So look, think about the best race car driver. The best race car driver, he knows the ins and outs of the car. So when he's going around the corner, he can pull it, right? They call that full throttle?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? All right? He can go full throttle. He can he can push the car hard. All right? The guys that are really great with women, they might be in the nightclub or wherever they are, and they can push the car hard, all right? They can push the limit. They've made all those distinctions. The bearings are no longer foreign anymore, all right? It's their own. They have now internalized these new bearings. Most guys going out, if you're new or even intermediate, or even trying the things you learned about in the seminar, you're having to trust in a foreign set of bearings. Okay? You're like, he says that I can do this. All right, I got to go and try and do it. And you're trying to gather evidence to make it work, to understand it, all right? So something as simple as leading. Even as simple as that, when you start leading the interaction, like getting used to being a social leader, you have to learn the ins and outs of it, all right? And it might be embarrassing, because you're trying to lead the interaction, you wind up making a jackass out of yourself. That stuff happens. But again, you can't be self-conscious, you have to learn the ins and outs of it. All right, so what are we taught not to do? Are we taught to talk to strangers in life?
Yep. No.
Okay, good try, okay. Are we taught to risk bothering people that we don't know?
No.
Okay, so there's a couple bearings that you might have right now, all right? Now, you don't necessarily know that this stuff can't be done. If you haven't approached lots of strangers, if you haven't taken that risk, you don't necessarily know it. That's called secondhand knowledge, all right? You've gathered your reality from a secondhand source, all right? So in the same way that you don't know what will happen if you jump out of an airplane, you just assumed it based on secondhand knowledge, you don't know that you can't be a big pimp because you never tried, all right? Unless you really tried, you don't know. But because most social conditioning says that you can't, you don't try, all right? So now we get to what's called the newbie's paradox. All right, who here has ever put on contact lenses? Contacts? Who has them? All right. Can anyone here describe what it's like initially putting on a new set of contacts? Painful, burns, right? How does it feel touching your eyeball with your finger?
Strange.
It's weird, huh? Does your eye want to automatically close itself?
Yes.
Has these little, what do we call that? Flinching, right? It's a flinching. So your eye wants to close itself. Now, what's great about this, though, if you keep doing it every day and taking it in and out of your eye, your mind eventually says, hey, look at this, man. You can put in the contact lens. Nothing's going to happen. So that's interesting. Like you can gather the reference experiences to no longer feel that flinchingness. Well, how about a newbie who's learning to approach strangers and learning to approach women? When he goes up and he approaches women, if he's not confident in himself and he doesn't have belief, what kind of evidence is he going to get? Positive or negative?
Negative.
Right? So for a newbie, if you want to compare putting in a contact lens to approaching girls, this is like putting in a contact lens, and when you touch it the first time, your eye explodes like the Death Star. Okay? That's really what it's like. Because when you're a newbie, you're like, okay, they said in the program it's okay to approach. So you're like, all right, I'll go and approach, right? And then, right? And of course, if a newbie's sense of self, as if his sense of identity is not that strong yet, right? If you're not, don't have a strong sense of what you value and who you are, that girl blowing you off, your state's like that, right? I don't want to do this anymore. This stuff is stupid. So that's what's going on. That is the newbie's paradox. The paradox is this. In order to get that unwavering belief, you need reference experiences to believe it. But you can't get the reference experiences without the unwavering belief a lot of the time. I mean, you can get some, but you're not going to get those incredible reference experiences that you want. That's the newbie's paradox. It's hard to break out of the newbie's paradox because the more the newbie goes out and gets blown out, what's that?
Boot camp.
Yeah, but you can't break out of it. It's really, really difficult. So look. To have unwavering belief, you have to get to a point where, number one, you fully assume that what you're going to do is going to work. And number 2, here's the second criteria, you have to be totally indifferent to the odd times that it doesn't. All right? So number 1, you have to fully assume it works. Number 2, you have to be indifferent if it doesn't work. That is the only way that you're going to approach women thoughtlessly without flinching. It's totally natural, congruent, and smooth. It cannot be like the little engine that could. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. You just understand it. All right? That's what it means when it's internalized, like when you sit on a chair, when you're walking. So you're relaxed about it. There's definitely no sense of self or no pride tied into it. It's just a funny thing that you can do, and you know that anybody else could figure it out if they were to try. Okay? So what that means is this. When you start to get good with women, you can't make this identity out of it. Like, look at all this cool stuff that I can do that other people can't do. I'm so cool. All right? You can't be coming from that perspective. It's got to be like, yeah, it's this little cool thing that I can do. Other people could learn it too. You don't make it into like some kind of a big deal, all right? When you're talking to somebody, you shouldn't have this false sense of superiority just because you know how to approach women. It's just a cool little thing that you know how to do. If they were to wanted to learn how to do it, they could do it. If not, fine. That's called the it's no big deal type of attitude. Because when you make it a big deal, you're constantly trying to reinforce it. What you need to be on is almost like a level where, you know how if you ask a natural about this stuff, they think it's funny? Have you ever noticed that when you talk to a natural about this stuff, it kind of messes with their heads? Yeah. All right, let me ask you this. Look, imagine if I go up to you and I start saying, so you could really like drink water? Right? Look, just try to, because I'm just having a hard time grasping this. You could really drink water, for real. Like you can just take it and like you just pour it down your throat and you drink. Oh my God, right? That was amazing. That was amazing. All right? Okay? And so when I'm doing that, in some subtle way, obviously you know you can drink water, but in some subtle way, it's almost making you think like, yeah, right? Like, I think, right? You know, it's like maybe I can. No, I can. I know I can, right? When they're being doubted. That's why naturals, a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time when you talk to them about it, they're like, what is this? What is this guy? Right? What is he talking about? And they can almost seem irritated because you're messing with their reality. Okay? It's starting to make you self-doubt. So you want to be on a level where it's fully internalized. Let's compare it to walking through walls. Great comparison here. All right, so look. Say that I believe that I can walk through this nice little paper pad here. All right? I'm going to walk through the giant paper pad, which we could just imagine as being a wall. Could you make yourself, just by telling yourself over and over that it'll work, walk up to this and just boom, and just plow it over with like full belief? How about like a concrete wall? No. Like you know when you walk into a patio door, how much that hurts? Because you walked into it hard, right? Like you fully walked into it. You didn't like slow down a bit, so it hits. Like there's a lot of momentum. Well, in a lot of ways, telling a newbie that he can go approach a woman is like telling him that he can walk through a wall. There's always that little bit, as he's approaching, that little bit of flinch, that little bit of self-protection. What I call that is dipping your little toesies in the pond to see if it's warm, all right? It's like this. It's like, ooh, is it warm? Ooh, all right, like that. It's an inability to really put your personality on the line, and we call these ego defense mechanisms. What an ego defense mechanism is where you're talking to the girl and your unconscious mind will make you flinch so that you can tell yourself, she didn't reject the real me, she rejected the flinching me. You ever been talking to a girl and you start going like this as you're talking, you're like that? Ever done that? Right? Well, she rejects you. Did she reject the real you? No, she rejected the wobbling you. Right? So it wasn't the real you. It is not going to affect your state on the same level. And so that's that flinch. Most guys are not able to just walk up to a girl, hey, who are you, right? They don't have that level of smoothness. But it's when you get that level of smoothness that you become congruent, you become smooth, you become sleek. Like, you know, it's just like that nice, you can tell a guy he's got just really nice skills with women. He's just got that smoothness about him, that congruence about him. There's no flinching taking place. It's not a belief system anymore. It's an understanding. It's not, I believe that if I approach, I'll get a great response. It's just an understanding. I understand that people are not, I understand that the floor will hold me up. I understand that people are nice and I can talk to them. I just understand it now. It's not this big deal. It's not like, look what I can do, all right? I understand. Oh, I'm going to talk to them. I just understand it. You don't even think about it. That's what total belief means. Newbie's paradox makes it very, very hard to achieve. Let's say you want to scramble yourself. Let's say that you want to sort of scramble yourself out of newbie's paradox. You want to get out of it. This is one of the biggest, for me, this has been one of the biggest epiphanies that I've learned to get myself into state, to get that nimbus burning in a raging inferno very, very quickly. And that is this. The halfway point between fear and total belief, you want to know what it is?
Yeah.
Indifference. You got it. Indifference. The halfway point between total belief and being a chode is indifference. So is it a good idea to try to cultivate total belief? Can you do that? Can you try to deliberately go out and try and cultivate total belief? Like, I'm going to go out tonight and try and cultivate total belief, even though I'm going to get blown out a whole bunch of times as a newbie, and the only belief that I'm going to learn is that I suck because of my reference experiences, but I'm going to try to cultivate total belief. You can't really do that, guys. All right? As a newbie, you can't really go out and try to cultivate total belief because you're trying to gather what? Reference experiences. Does everyone here know what reference experiences are?
Yes. Yes.
Reference experience, like, when you're a kid, you're trying to walk, you're trying to see that the floor will hold, you're trying to see that if you move forward, this will happen, if you move backwards, this will happen. You're gathering what is called reference experience. You're gathering evidence, all right? That's why newbies are always out there desperate to gather evidence of their newfound identity, right? Like, I want to feel like this cool guy, and then you need to keep getting evidence to prove that you're that cool guy. So you cannot get evidence that all people will respond well to you if you don't totally believe it. You're not going to get evidence of that. All that you're going to get as a newbie is evidence that you suck, typically. That's the evidence that you're going to get. And I got a lot of that evidence for a long time, all right? So when you're starting out, there's no possibility of gathering evidence or reference experiences that you're great, that you're this big pimp. But you can gather reference experiences that it doesn't matter what people think of you. You can gather evidence of that. All right? So by going out night after night, getting shot down, getting hammered, getting humiliated, getting embarrassed, you can gather a lot of evidence of one thing. It really doesn't matter what anybody thinks of you. That is what you could learn. So you're going out, you're learning it doesn't matter what anybody thinks of you. And you go through these motions, you go through it, and eventually you cross something that's beautiful. And that something is what I call the indifference threshold. All right? There is that nice... we call it the harmonious ting of true indifference, all right? True indifference, okay, true letting go of the outcome, it's a harmonious ting that somebody has when they have let go of the outcome and they're not reaching in their interactions anymore. Okay, it's like a loss of neediness. And when you can let go, all right, when you can let go of that need for outcome, suddenly what happens is the girls start being nicer. You may not be on a level where you can pull them out of there and it's like all pimp, but they start to really open up. And so what you can essentially do is bombard your mind, all right? Because what is this system put in place to do? The system, which is so that, okay, stop and really think about how this system is designed to screw you over, okay? Really think about this. Women respond to guys that are confident. Why? Why do they respond to guys that are confident, guys? Okay, sucks them in the reality. Okay, what else, guys? High value, right? If your confidence, is it the confidence that attracts you? It's what it communicates. Okay? The confidence communicates that you're probably successful with other women. That's really what and it's communicating resourcefulness, other things. But confidence is communicating that you're successful with other women. All right? So, the system is designed, like the woman's evolutionary system is designed not to feel attracted to you if you're not confident, right? It's designed to do that. So if you're not successful with women, the system is put there to prevent you, some little slug, right, when you're starting out, if you're chode, from getting girls. Because it's to prevent the population from being overrun with chode babies, all right? We're getting this is very black and white thinking, right? Extreme, stupid generalizations. But, that I'm just being silly. But the system is put there so that you can't be successful. The system is put there so that you cannot get confident unless you really, have what the women want, right? And have that, survival reproduction value. So what you can do is you have to scramble the system, all right? You have to scramble your own brain. Essentially, what you have to do is pummel your brain with so many references, so much experience that the whole system just goes, all right? That's what's got to take place. So when you take, as a newbie, when you go out and you just go approach, right, and you're just getting blown out, and you're like, oh, I'm going to stop, and you go, no, keep going, right? That's what a boot camp is, right? Keep going, all right? And you keep going, boom, boom, and then eventually your mind goes, you know what? It doesn't matter what anyone thinks of me. Look, I'm still here. I'm okay. I'm fine. And then you cross what is called the indifference threshold. And that's when things change. Because now you're indifferent, and now the groups do open. All right? And now I want you to think of it like this. Think of your mind. We said it is always pinging. Your mind's always pinging for evidence. So if this is you, it's always doing this. All right? It's doing that. And it's looking for normal and permissible behavior. That's what it's looking for. So when you start to go out, initially you're afraid that if you go and approach, that is not normal and permissible behavior, and you could get pounded. You could get beat up, you could get your ass kicked, whatever, you get the giant rock thrown at your head, and you're on. You're done. All right? But then, when you do it, and then your mind is pinging, right? It's going ping, 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 ping. You're doing that, and then your mind goes, look, this is normal and permissible behavior. That's what's going on there. Okay, boom, I can do this now. So what happens is, you go from being what's called stifled to unstifled. And this is a realization, this here, what I'm going to explain to you guys, was the realization that allowed me to get from like a fairly consistent level to a almost like close to 100% consistent good nights level. This is the realization, and this is, we're deep into day 4 here. This is part of what we've been building. The indifference threshold is something that can be crossed very quickly, extremely quickly, but you have to recognize it in yourself. So do you remember when I brought up, what's your name?
Scott.
Okay, remember when I brought Scott up here, right? And I got him to yell. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you notice that at first he couldn't yell, and then eventually, when people are cheering and and clapping, suddenly he can yell? That's called stifling, okay? Think of stifling like a cup. It's like this. Okay, here's you, and here's the cup, and it's holding you in, all right? What it's saying is, don't extend your behavior beyond a certain range. It's saying, look, here's what it's telling you, stifling. It's saying, if this is your range, don't let your voice be heard past this range. Don't take up, when you're in an elevator and you're taking up space, it says don't take up space beyond XYZ range, whatever it determines. It says don't go approach people, don't go interrupting people, taking up their time and space. Don't do that, all right? It's doing that to you. It's called stifling. So for years and years, I've been doing this voice exercise that we did yesterday, all right, where we yell. And you can see it's like magic how you can take a guy who has a totally screwed up voice, he's totally stifled, and then you can unlock him, all right? You unlock him by getting him unstifled. Do you want to know what I never knew? I never saw this coming. I myself get stifled. I thought that I didn't get that anymore. I thought that I didn't have an issue with that. Do you want to know why stifling happens? It happens because as you change environments, you're not totally certain of what that environment is. Your unconscious mind stifles you in. And so what happens is your voice is not totally unlocked. All right? Your voice goes down. It says, this isn't it. So what you quickly have to do, okay, imagine like a Dragon Ball Z character or something, right? And it's like that, and you kind of expand out, and then you show that you can expand out. It's called unstifling yourself. All right? And what I did was actually, as for a couple months, took up the practice of unstifling myself once every 5 minutes. And it was incredible what happened. So look, okay, say you get in the nightclub, all right? You get in there. Who here finds that they get stifled a lot, if you want to use yourself as an example? Do you get stifled a lot, Dan?
It happens time to time.
Because I need someone who you can tell that they're stifled when they yell. Okay? Who here? I don't think you get stifled at all. Okay. All right. Okay. Who here gets stifled? Probably that's a really dumb question because if someone's stifled, they're not going to put their hand up. All right. Okay. Do you get stifled?
Me? Sure.
You don't sound that stifled right now. I want to teach you guys what stifling sounds like. Do you get stifled?
Not right now, no.
Okay, wait. Looking for someone. Do you get stifled?
No.
He's a little bit slightly. We're looking for someone. You know why? Do you know what's happening here? Let me guys tell you a secret. Whenever I do the stifling exercise, it's actually a gamble every time that I do it. You want to know why? Because when I bring a guy up here and I say yell, if I pick the wrong guy, I've been doing this exercise for years, right? And I'm trying to make my point. So we were lucky because we had a great example yesterday, right? And everybody else probably would have been stifled as well if they would have been called up. But what happens is, if I call you up and I say, here, yell, and then this guy yells, and he's unstifled, and I still want to show the example, when I call up the next guy who would normally be stifled, he's not stifled anymore. Do you guys see why? Because he goes, look, it's okay to yell in here. Yeah, we're okay to yell in here. And then my whole demonstration is blown as a teacher, right? It sucks, okay? So that's why I'm always like, gotta pick. And like, even when I go to teach this, I'm like looking through, like, who's Mr. Stifled here? And sometimes I can find great examples. So look, maybe we'll see if we can find someone, because I really want to get you guys super in touch with this. Okay? Are you stifled?
No.
No? Okay, yell for me. Ah! No, he's not stifled. Try yelling. Yeah! Nah, fuck. All right. This room has become unstifled. All right. Okay. All right. Any stifled cases here? How about you? Yell. Yeah. Woo! Yell louder. Woo! Okay. How about you? Yeah! How about you? Yeah! How about you? Ah! Okay, get up here. All right. Okay, good stuff. All right. Okay. So we'll see. Okay. So hop up. Okay. All right. Okay, so yell. Okay, well, he probably will get unstifled now because you all clap for him. But anyway, go ahead. Try yell. Ah! All right. Does it sound better than before? Yeah. Okay, so okay, look. What if we, okay, let's think of something maybe like okay, sing Happy Birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Okay, come on. Give it everything.
Happy birthday to you.
Okay, now stop. Okay, now I'm going to sing it with you, and then I'm going to get you to keep going after, okay? Okay, from the start, okay? Ready? Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear red shirt guy. Happy birthday to you. All right? Okay? So we call that being unstifled, okay? So what happens there, okay? Now sing it again. Quiet. Everyone will go quiet. We're judging you. Okay? If this isn't good as last time, that means you're not as cool. All right? Okay? No, don't even laugh. He will be rejected and ostracized. Okay? No. What are you laughing for, dude? Okay? You better do this good. If you don't, okay? I've got a rock back there. Okay? No, don't laugh at this. Okay? Do it good. Okay, go ahead.
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me.
Can you guys see the dip? Can you guys see the dip? Can you see when he's out of his head and then goes into his head? Okay? You can see like he's doing really well, by the way, is he not? Yeah. Would you guys want to? Okay, would you guys want to be up here having to do that shit, right? You know? Okay. So right. So so as an example, and then you guys could of course see it back there, right? You can detect the stifling. Okay, give him a hand, guys. Okay, give him a hand. Okay? Go ahead. All right, thank you. Okay. All right. Thanks. Thank you. So, all right. Look, what I want you guys to be able to do is start to detect that stifling. Okay. And so what I started to do when I went out is we started, as a test, we started every 5-minute stifling check, me and my buddy Oljai, right? So we'd be out in Honolulu, and out of nowhere, we would just start to sing, and I was very, very surprised to notice that a lot of the times when I thought I was totally unstifled, I'd be like, happy, and then I'm like, motherfucker, I'm stifled, right? I don't feel stifled, but it's very, very subtle. It's a subtle thing. And a lot of you guys have had those nights where you do amazingly well and had nights where you thought that you're doing the exact same thing, but you didn't do as well. And a lot of that comes down to that whole stifling, all right? It comes down to the stifling. Because what's happening to you is look, say that you're very into like a natural style, right? You're in a really natural style, you start to learn it. Maybe one night you feel really unstifled, so you go, hey, who are you? Or, hey, my name's Owen, whatever it is that you like to do. And it works amazing. Then on other nights, you're like, hey, my name's Owen. And it's like, hey, my name's Owen, right? It's like, there's just not that richness. The richness isn't in the voice. That richness is what she's responding to. That unstifledness, both in your body language, voice, your verbal expression, it's that unstifledness. So what I realized was that, number one, whenever I'm out on my own, anytime I'm out on my own, I don't say to myself, I need to be confident right now. I just say, I need to cross the indifference threshold as quickly as possible. All right? So don't try to be confident in life. Just try to be indifferent. Confidence will then flow from that point. Okay? Allow yourself to fail. Allow yourself to be indifferent to the outcome. Now, this is an amazing thing, what happens to an individual when they consistently start to cross the indifference threshold. Because as you go out and you start to cross that indifference threshold when you're going out a lot, what happens is eventually you do get some new reference experiences, and they feel good. And eventually what can start to happen is as you do this more and more, you start to realize that this new identity that you have is better. Do you guys remember how I said, like, if you're talking to your girlfriend and you compliment her on something, she'll want to live up to that identity? You guys remember that? Mm-hmm. Do you guys remember how yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, I can't remember at this point, we talked about how early in life, say that you show creativity or show leadership and people give you props for it, you recognize that that's a better identity to have. Have you guys ever seen a goth kid? Do you guys remember the goth kids in school? Maybe you were one of them. Who, they start off, maybe they're like a nerd, right? You were a goth? That is awesome if you were a goth. Were you? Yeah. Oh, I thought you pointed yourself. I would have loved that. You were a goth, Kieran. All right. So you remember when you start off, did you start off as a nerd?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So then you hang out with the goth crowd, right? And at first, you just hang out with them and they give you acceptance. So then maybe next time that you're out getting a shirt, you choose the black shirt. Right? Then maybe the next time that you're out, you choose the Doc Martens or the New Rocks or whatever shoes. Then maybe the next time that you're out buying a CD, you choose the 9 Inch Nails album or the Marilyn Manson album. Then next time that you're out, you notice some black makeup and you decide to try it on, right? And then within about 18 months' time, you've gone from being a nerd to being this kind of like, angst-filled, gaunt, like with the cheeks sucked in kind of goth guy. Okay? And you've turned into that, right? Yeah. Right? And yeah. Kieran does that sometimes, so no. So, that is where you get, it's an identity level shift. Well, in the same way that a nerd can become a goth, is the same way that you could become a champion, right? Because when you're going out and you're trying to take on those behaviors, eventually when your mind has the click, like it goes like that, it's better to be this like high-value guy, this cool guy, this fun, social, gregarious person, than it is to try to avoid attention and not infringe on anybody. Once you've had that click, remember we talked about micro behaviors? The micro behaviors start to come in. What happens is you remember reticular activation. See, we're seeing a lot of concepts converging here, guys. You know reticular activation system? What reticular activation system does is it starts to look at the behaviors of cool guys with more clarity than it did before. All right? Once your mind has had the click, it's better to be this cool dude, your mind starts RASing, focusing in, without you even realizing it, on the super, super, super subtle, super micro behaviors of really cool guys. That's essentially what happens. In fact, if you've ever been out and you start to bust out the funniest humor that you've ever busted out, that very well could be that once you've taken on the mindset that you want to be funny, there could be some comedian guy on TV like 3 months ago, and your whole RAS system like tuned into that. It tuned into the rhythms of it and the vibe of it. And you didn't even know that it did that. That's why there is no magic pill. It's a process that you go through. And that's why when people learn this whole deep identity level change thing, you can see such a drastic shift. Such an amazing shift in such a short period of time. Maybe like a year, 2 years, and someone is different. Okay? In the same way that a nerd can go to a goth in 12, 18 months, you can go into a champ in 12, 18 months, right? And then maybe over the next 2 years, all the little gaps get filled in. Does anyone here feel like they've reached an intermediate level and they're just kind of waiting for those little gaps to fill in? Does anyone here feel like that? Okay, great, a lot of you. Where you've reached an intermediate level, but there's still certain little behaviors that you don't have. As long as that click in your mind has gone off, I like being a champ. I enjoy this, okay? Because maybe you're going out, you get treated like that once in a while, and then you're getting that evidence. The little pieces of the puzzle will fill themselves in, all right? The painting that is the new you, if you just keep going out, will begin to fill it in. The canvas will fill in. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. How awesome is that, guys? Awesome. Okay? It is awesome. How do we cross the indifference threshold quickly? Okay? So that's what we want to ask ourselves. We want to go out, we want to get these reference experiences so we can internalize this new sense of reality. We want to get the reference experiences. How do we get unstifled quickly? And this is going to come down to how I was able to get the really high consistency. Here's what we did. First of all, I want to stress this. When we came up with this stuff, We're just random, silly dudes that come up with this stuff in our spare time. So this is not like the official way of doing anything. This is just some silly nonsense that we came up with in our own time. All right, so you want to cross that indifference threshold. Now, the first thing that I want you to notice is this. You know how when you're not in the mood to do a math problem, you just don't feel like doing it? You want to quickly shift your state as fast as possible into wanting to do it. So, for example, look. If I were to ask you guys, would you guys all like to, be feeling great and all that kind of stuff right now? All of you want to, would you agree? Yeah. Okay. All of you want to be feeling great. But see, you say that, but in truth, you probably are happy right where you are. You know? If you're sitting there, look, if you're sitting there chilling out with your buddy, and there's a group of girls over there, of course you want to go and chat them and be silly and fun and do all that stuff, but you're okay where you are. Have you guys ever heard the principle, is it called the principle of inertia? Yeah. What is it?
Resistance to change. In motion.
What is it?
Objects in motion stay in motion.
Could you yell that out?
Objects in motion stay in motion.
Could you yell that out? Because this is a course on that. Yeah.
Objects in motion stay in motion, and if they're still, they stay still.
Unless what? Acted upon.
Less
force. Okay. So what he said for the cheap seats. An object in motion stays in motion, and an object at rest will stay at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. So when you're sitting there with your buddy, just drinking, just sitting there chilling out, and there's some girls you want to go talk to, you don't have any momentum, right? So you need to be the outside force. You remember how I said you are not your mind? Your mind may be like, no, dude, just chill. Just chill, bro. Bro, tons of girls. Get it later, bro. And you're like, nah, bro. Okay? We're not going to chill now, bro. We're going to move. So what you do...
Chill's not even here, is he?
What's that? Okay, so what you do is you've got to act on it, right? So even me right now, sitting up here in front of the crowd, I'm not necessarily totally in the mood to just start being silly. But what I can do is I can act upon myself as similar to an outside force, okay? I can do that to myself to get myself going, all right? So why don't I bring you up here, okay? You can be the lucky one this time, all right? Now you can see, even as I brought you up here, show them the facial expression that you just did right now. He went like this. Okay, zoom up on my face. He was like that, all right? Okay?
I don't want to have to sing.
Okay? You don't want to have to sing? Okay. Right? So remember what we talked about. We said, you want to be silly, you want to be having fun, but you're chilling, right?
Right.
You were okay in your seat.
I was.
It was all good, man. In the seat, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So you're not totally in the mood to be doing that, right? So what we need to do is he's in this kind of, he doesn't, I need to be the outside force here, all right? So I need to get him unstifled, all right? So come over here, okay? All right, so the first game that we could play, we call it the imitation game, okay? And remember that to unstifle yourself, the main goal is to do something that you would think, okay, here's the criteria basically. It's something that's out of character, like it's something that quote unquote isn't really you. That's the first criteria. And the second criteria is to expand out the sort of energy, time, and space that you're sort of taking up. Have you guys ever heard the idea that the principle that one of the number one driving forces in human psychology is to be consistent to what you perceive as being your identity? Anyone ever heard that?
Yes.
Okay? Because when we have that certain identity, look, I found out that when I act like this and I have this type of personality, I get acceptance from the group. Think of the group like a big puzzle, right? If you have carved out a certain puzzle shape, a certain piece of the puzzle, and it fits into the group well, you don't want to change the piece of the puzzle and it doesn't fit into the status quo properly. All right? So we're always trying to be congruent. That's why as guys, we're more likely to go get in a fist fight where you get knocked in the face, you're knocking a guy back, than you are to go out dressed in a tutu. Why? Because one, you're like, I like tutus. But the thing is, okay, most guys, why will they get in the fight? Because that's congruent to their tough guy identity. That's manly, but they don't want to do something that's humiliating. You know what's interesting about this game? Does this game really involve more being manly at first as a newbie? Or does it involve